abominable plans to lower the human population by orchestrating a limited nuclear war in the near future. And the overall goal to have us all living in states of fear, ignorance, and unending.
The bloodline looks as menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again inside.
There's a kick. It's flatmash. Lights out. That's going to keep Sikoa down.
He's got the shoulders down. This is it.
Got it. What a tag match we just saw. It's hooked in deep.
Here are your winners.
The reason why so much attention was given to the story was simple. It all revolved around the existence of a secret UFO program within the U.S. government. It was a program that ran from 2007 until 2012, and which was secretly funded to try to determine the true nature of the UFO phenomenon. Not only that, the story was blown wide open by none other than the New York Times. Before we get to the heart of the matter, it's important to note the history of secret UFO programs within the government. Such programs date back to the late 1940s, when the UFO phenomenon began, and UFOs were termed flying saucers and flying discs. It was in summer 1947 that the UFO controversy began. On June 24th, 1947, a pilot named Kenneth Arnold encountered a squadron of strange-looking boomerang-like aircraft flying near Mount Rainier, Washington state. As an experienced pilot, Arnold was puzzled by the fact that he was unable to figure out what exactly the craft were. On landing, Arnold shared his story with the media and told them that the objects, like saucers, skimmed across a body of water in a kind of up-and-down motion. In literally only hours, the term flying saucer was coined. The big irony is that the saucer part came from Arnold's observation of how the object flew, not their shape. The U.S. military quickly moved to investigate the case, as well as a wave of quite literally hundreds of additional sightings throughout the remainder of 1947 and into 1948.
Ice in their veins, that's perhaps the only way to describe this version of the bloodline. Cold.
There's a kick and flatmash. Lights out. That's got to be the end right there. He covers. This is it. Could be.
Scores the win. What a great team. It's hooked in deep.
Here are your winners. The team up.
Some of the science staff favored the extraterrestrial hypothesis. In 1948, Project Sign was replaced with Project Grudge. Just like Sign, Grudge had its personnel who championed the alien angle, while others suggested military aircraft of some kind, either the product of Uncle Sam or the Soviets. Certainly the most ambitious of all the UFO programs are
ice in their veins, that's perhaps the only way to describe this version of the bloodline. Cold blood.
There's a kick and flatmash. Lights out.
That could put Solo.
Going for the cover. Solo, shoulders are down.
Got it. What a match and what a great team. It's hooked in deep.
Here are your winners. The team Alistair Black, Bray Wyatt.
1947 to 1969, a total of 12,618 sightings were reported to Project Blue Book. Of these, 701 remained unidentified. The project was headquartered at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, whose personnel no longer receive, document, or investigate UFO reports. The decision to discontinue UFO investigations was based on an evaluation of a report prepared by the University of Colorado.
The bloodline looks as menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again.
There's a kick and flatmash. Lights out.
Feeling like it's over for Sikoa.
Face first. He might have it here. Is this it?
And they score the win. What a tag match.
As a result of these investigations and studies and experience gained from investigating UFO reports,
Alistair Black.
conclusions of Project Blue Book are: 1. No UFO reported, investigated, and evaluated by the Air Force has ever given any indication of threat to our national security. 2. There has been no evidence submitted to or discovered by the Air Force that sightings categorized as unidentified represent technological developments or principles beyond the range of present-day scientific knowledge. And 3, there has been no evidence indicating that sightings categorized as unidentified are extraterrestrial vehicles. With the termination of Project Blue Book, the Air Force regulations establishing and controlling the program.
The bell rings. The Bloodline will surely be looking to run roughshod in this match. That packed.
There's a kick and black mass. Lights out.
Dominating maneuver could end things.
He might have him.
Got it. There's the winners of the tag match. It's hooked in deep.
This is
Here are your winners. The team of
Blue Book was closed. Nothing has happened to indicate that the Air Force ought to resume investigating UFOs. Because of the considerable cost to the Air Force in the past and the tight funding of Air Force needs today, there is no likelihood the Air Force will become involved with UFO investigation again. There are a number of universities and professional scientific organizations, such as the American Association for the Advancement of Science, which have considered
The Bloodline
UFO
looks as menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again.
In addition,
there's a kick and black mass. Lights out.
Could put Solo down for good.
Going to the cover. Solo shoulders are down.
And that's it. Scores the win for the team. It's hooked in deep.
Here are your winners. The team of
The person calling the base to report a UFO is advised to contact a private or professional organization, as mentioned above, or to contact a local law enforcement agency if the caller feels his or her public safety is endangered. The last word from the Air Force is this. Periodically, it is erroneously stated that the remains of extraterrestrial visitors are or have been stored at Wright-Patterson AFB. There are not
Ice in their veins. That's perhaps the only way to describe this version of the Bloodline. Cole.
there's a kick and black mass. Lights out.
Now's the time to capitalize.
This could be it. It could end right here.
Big time win in this tag team match. It's hooked in deep.
Here are your winners.
It should also be noted that it wasn't just the U.S. military that created UFO researcher programs. The CIA did likewise. On December 2nd, 1952, the CIA's Assistant Director H. Marshall Chadwell noted in a classified report on UFO activity in American airspace, sightings of unexplained objects at great altitudes and traveling at high speeds in the vicinity of major U.S. defense installations are of
The
such
Bloodline
nature
looks as menacing
that
as
they are
ever
not
as they prepare to
attributable
establish their
to
dominance
natural
once again
phenomena
inside the ring.
known
The
to
latest incarnation of the Bloodline only has one mode.
Believing
Total
that
destruction. Doesn't matter who you are, you will come to respect the Bloodline.
It's a savage approach, but the Bloodline has certainly become one of the most feared factions.
Solo. And there's the Uranagi. There's a kick and black mass. Lights out. That's going to keep Sokoa down. That was disrespectful. He's thinking he can end it here.
And it's over. Big tag team win there.
That's like she didn't hurry that one.
Here are your winners. The team of
Program of intelligence and research to the extent of their capacity provided, however, that the DCI shall avoid duplication of activities presently directed toward the solution of this problem. 3. This effort shall be coordinated with the Military Services and the Research and Development Board of the Department of Defense, with the Psychological Board and other governmental agencies as appropriate.
Ice in their veins. That's perhaps the only way to describe this version of the Bloodline. Cole.
there's a kick and black mass. Lights out. Did Black just put an end to this? Now attempts to cover. Can he keep him down?
Comes out on top in this tag team match. It's hooked in deep.
Here are your winners. The team of Alistair Black.
Scientists to review and appraise the available evidence in the light of pertinent scientific theories should be the order of the day. Thus was born the Robertson Panel, so named after the man chosen to head the inquiry, Howard Percy Robertson, a consultant to the agency, a renowned physicist, and the director of the Defense Department Weapons Evaluation Group. Chadwell was tasked with putting together a crack
The bloodline looks as menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again.
There's a kick and flip pass. Lights out. Feeling like it's over for Sokola.
This could be it. But it's a recount.
Got there. This is almost over. Black's looking to turn the lights out.
The Air Force said.
Oh, it is over. Does that close it out for Black?
3-on-3 matches are over.
Scores the win. What a great team.
That they had a significant body of data to work with was the main thing. So the team, which included Luis Alvarez, physicist and radar expert and later a Nobel Prize recipient,
That's a big victory.
Frederick C. Durant, CIA officer, secretary to the panel, and missile expert, Samuel Abraham Goudsmith, Brookhaven National Laboratory's nuclear physicist, and Thornton Page, astrophysicist, radar expert, and deputy director of Johns Hopkins Operations Research Office, quickly got to work. The overall conclusion of the Robertson panel was that while UFOs per se did not appear to have a bearing on national security or the defense of the United States, the way in which the subject could be used by unfriendly forces to manipulate the public mindset and disrupt the U.S. military infrastructure did have a bearing, and a major one too, on matters of a security nature. According to the panel's members, although evidence of any direct threat from these sightings was wholly lacking, related dangers might well exist resulting from a misidentification of actual enemy aircrafts by defense personnel, b. overloading of emergency reporting channels with false information, c. subjectivity of public to mass hysteria, and greater vulnerability to possible enemy psychological warfare. It was also recommended that a number of the public UFO investigative groups that existed in the United States at the time, such as the Civilian Flying Saucer Investigators, CFSI, and the Aerial Phenomena Research Organization, APRO, should be watched carefully due to the apparent irresponsibility and the
Ice in their veins, that's perhaps the only way to describe this version of the bloodline. Cole.
There's a kick and flip pass. Lights out. The lights are out for Sokola. Cover. This could be all over.
Big time win in this tag team match. It's hooked in deep.
Here are your winners.
This education should be accomplished by mass media such as television, motion pictures, and popular articles. Basis of such education would be actual case histories, which had been puzzling at first, but later explained. As in the case of conjuring tricks, there is much less stimulation if the secret.
The bloodline looks as menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again.
There's a kick and flip pass. Lights out.
That could put Solo down for good.
Yank right up the cover. Solo shoulders her down.
In this connection, Dr. Hadley Cantrell.
And it's over. Big tag team win there.
Cantrell authored Invasion from Mars, while studying the psychology written about the famous Orson Welles radio broadcast in 1938, and has since performed advanced laboratory studies in the field of perception. The names of Don Marcus, University of Michigan, and Leo Roston were mentioned as possibly suitable as consultant psychologists. Also, someone familiar with mass communications techniques, perhaps an advertising expert, would be helpful, Arthur Godfrey was mentioned as possibly a valuable channel
The
of
bloodline looks
communication
as menacing
reaching
as
mass
ever as they
audiences
prepare to
certain
establish
levels.
their dominance once
Dr.
again
Lloyd
inside the ring.
Berkner
The latest incarnation of the bloodline only has some... there's a kick and bloodbath. Lights out.
That's got to be it.
Valuable organization.
It could be all over here.
The teaching techniques used by this agency for aircraft identification during the past year.
Got it. What a match and what a great team.
Educational task. The Jan Handy.
Here are your winners.
Which made WWII training manuals, motion picture, and slide strips, was also suggested, as well as Walt Disney Incorporated animated cartoons. In other words, the Robert Patterson panel was less about determining what UFOs were, and more concerned with addressing how the Soviets might manipulate the phenomenon as a means to create mass hysteria in the United States, all of which brings us back to the modern era. It was on December 16th.
The bell rings. The bloodline will surely be looking to run roughshod in this match. That pack.
There's a
kick
kick
and bloodbath. Lights out. Going for the cover. Shoulders are down.
In the UFO game.
And they score the win. What a tag match. It's hooked in deep.
The story became not just nationwide news. The official title of the project was the Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program, AATIP. The program began quietly in 2007 in the offices of the Defense Intelligence Agency with a budget of $22 million and was encouraged into existence by Democratic Senator Harry Reid, who had a personal interest in the subject of UFOs. The AATIP program was run by a man named...
The bloodline looks as menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again.
There's
a kick and bloodbath. Lights out. Black might have brought this to a close.
He's got it down to the pin. Comes out on top in this tag team match. It's hooked in deep.
Here are your winners. The team of Alistair Black.
Which is highly thought-provoking. The revelation of the program could give a credibility boost to UFO theorists who have long pointed to public accounts by military pilots and others describing phenomena that defy obvious explanation and could fuel demands for increased transparency about the scope and findings of the Pentagon effort, which focused some of its inquiries into sci-fi sounding concepts like wormholes.
The bell rings. The bloodline will surely be looking to run roughshod in this match. That pack mentality is full force here.
You have to remember, Cole, that
days after
there's a kick and bloodbath. Lights out. There is no coming back from that. And he finds an answer for the Hulkster.
And how exactly do you put your ego aside in a six-man tag team match? There's a lot of pride on both sides here. But you're smart. He's going for the cover. Solo. Shoulders are down.
Luis Elizondo, a member of TTSA,
Got it. There's the winners of the tag match.
That he believes in the existence of extraterrestrials.
Here are your winners.
That belief is not just based on scientific evidence. Indeed, Elizondo said, these aircraft, we'll call them aircraft, are displaying characteristics that are not currently within the U.S. inventory nor in any foreign inventory that we are aware of. Things that don't have any obvious flight services, any obvious forms of propulsion, and maneuvering in ways that include extreme maneuverability beyond, I would submit,
ice in their veins. That's perhaps the only way to describe this version of the bloodline. Cold. There's a kick and bloodbath.
Feeling like it's over for Sakura.
And here's the cover.
And that's it. Scores the win for the team. It's hooked in deep.
Observations by highly trained individuals, airline pilots, who would recognize aircraft shapes and aircraft movements. Even more is to come. UFO investigator Anthony Bragalia stated, the program's director, intelligence official Luis Elizondo, also confirmed the existence of contracts to Bigelow Aerospace for the construction modification of facilities in Las Vegas, Nevada, to house strange metal-like materials recovered by military
The Bloodline looks as menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again inside the ring.
The latest incarnation of the Bloodline only has one mode: total destruction. Doesn't matter who you are, you will come to respect the Bloodline.
It's a savage approach, but the Bloodline has certainly become... There's a kick and bloodbath. Lights out. Does that close out the fight?
Earlier this week,
There we go. He thinks this is it.
Got it. What a tag match we just saw.
Here are your winners. The team of Aleister Black, Bray Wyatt, and Hogan. The Bloodline taking the loss in this one.
The Bloodline is incensed. They really thought they had this one in the bag.
Well, no disrespect to the Bloodline.
UFO-related Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, as reported in the New York Times in December. In January, a FOIA was filed to compel the release of test results of purported UFO alloys held by Bigelow Aerospace in Nevada under the federal program. The extraordinary reply to the request included a litany of reasons why the government wants at least 2.5 years to reply to my request.
The Bloodline looks as menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again. There's a kick and bloodbath. Lights out. That can certainly do it. Yanks right up the apron. And the shoulders down. This might be it.
I think it's great.
Big time win in this tag team
The
match.
announcement by KLAS doesn't reveal how it obtained the information.
Here are your
But
winners.
it has been working
The
with
team
the
of
Senator, who has said many
If you
times
just
that
punch
there
him, he'd
is
be all right.
considerable information available about military UFO encounters. That includes those seen in 2004 by crew members on the USS Nimitz aircraft carrier, the USS Princeton, and a number of F-18 pilots who provided the video feeds and shocking commentary. Knapp reports on LasVegasNow.com that this was not a single UFO incident, but
The bell rings. The Bloodline will surely be looking to run roughshod in this match. That pack.
There's a
kick and bloodbath. Lights out.
That could put Solo down for good.
Looking to put this one away here.
Because of their white, elongated, oval shape.
Comes out on top in this tag team match. It's hooked in deep.
U.S. or any other nation.
Here are your winners.
It was so
The team of
rendered U.S. capabilities ineffective. It showed velocities far greater than anything known to exist, and it could turn itself invisible, both to radar and the human eye. Essentially, it was undetectable and unchallenged. Right now, this is where things stand. The current UFO program of the U.S. government remains steeped in secrecy and controversy. Despite the
ice in their
revelations
veins,
of the
that's
New York
perhaps the only
Times
way
in
to
December
describe this version of the Bloodline. Cold.
and Anthony
There's a
Fagin
kick and
in the
bloodbath.
statement
Lights out.
That's going to keep Sokoa down.
data evidence
For the win. Making the save. Still
I hate when he runs it like that.
the
a
advanced
great display of
aviation
confidence, but he doesn't want to give his opponent added motivation. There's a kick and bloodbath. Lights out. Aleister just turned the lights out.
Oh, man, this might be it.
And they score the win. What a tag match.
Incredible vehicles in the skies of our planet. Millennia
Here are your
ago,
winners.
they were presenting this phenomena of a supernatural kind, namely the work of a god or multiple gods. Today, the extraterrestrial hypothesis is all dominating. Also, a faction within the UFO research community believes that the UFO phenomenon is demonic in nature. Others suspect that our aliens might actually be time travelers from the future. However, what if an even stranger and far more controversial theory existed than all of
The
those
Bloodline
combined?
looks as menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again. There's a kick
It's
and
chosen
bloodbath. Lights out. Does that close it out for Black? Yeah, more makes the pin. This might be it.
It's a theory that suggests the
Got it.
UFO
What a match and what a great team.
aliens, modern, ancient, or both.
Here are your
An
winners.
offshoot
The team of
which exists in distinct stealth. Sounds too bizarre to be true? Maybe not. Over the course of millions of years, countless types of humans have existed. Some of a proto-nature, others savage, hairy, and primitive, and more than a few highly evolved. Among the list are the Neanderthals, the Cro-Magnons, and of course us, Homo sapiens. What if another group of humans existed?
The bloodline looks as menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again. And there's a kick and mass. Lights out. Black might have brought this to a close. Yet more is into the past.
Just the galaxy.
Got it. There's the winners of the tag match. It's hooked in
Does the
deep.
U.S. government have a secret awareness that we share the fallout of this? The evidence suggests that the government does indeed know. One person who strongly suspected that the UFO phenomenon has its origins right here on Earth was the late Mac Tonys, who in 2009 tragically died at the age of just 34 from heart disease. At the time of his death, Tonys was busily putting the final touches to his book on the subject, which he titled The Crypto.
The bell rings. The bloodline will surely be looking to run roughshod in this match. That pack. There's a kick and lights out. Just put end to this. Stops out against from connected. Covering their opponent for the win.
And that's it. Scores the win for the team.
I was fortunate enough to interview Tonys just a few months before his passing.
Here are your winners.
He shared with me a wealth of fascinating data, thoughts, suspicions, and conclusions. Let's see what he had to say. After devouring countless books on the UFO controversy and the paranormal, I began to acknowledge that the extraterrestrial hypothesis suffered some tantalizing flaws. In short, the aliens seemed more like surreal caricatures of ourselves than beings possessing the godlike technology one might plausibly expect from interstellar
The bell
visits.
rings. The bloodline will surely be
Like
looking to run
UFO
roughshod in this
researcher
match.
John
That pack. There's a
The
kick and
realization
lights out. Alistair just turned the lights out. Going for the cover. Shoulders are down. Breaks the pin.
Bray Wyatt locks in the claw. This is agonizing.
There's a kick and black mass. Lights out.
Will that be it? Will that be enough?
There's two.
And it's over. Big tag team win there.
Deconstructing the knee there.
This has been occurring in one form
Here are
or
your winners.
another.
The team of Alistair Black. Bray Wyatt.
There's a good deal of folkloric and mythological evidence pointing in this direction. And I find it most interesting that so many descriptions of ostensible aliens seems to reflect staged events designed to misdirect witnesses and muddle their perceptions. During the course of his research into the crypto-terrestrial theory, Tony spent a great deal of time addressing the matter of alien abductions. For those who aren't fully aware of the nature
The
of
bloodline looks as
phenomenon,
menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again. And there's a kick and
This
black
matter
mass.
is
Lights out.
the reality of alien abduction.
He's got it down. Here we go.
Got it. What a tag match we just saw. It's hooked in deep.
Yes, a few
Here are
earlier
your
cases
winners.
existed
The team of Alistair Black.
until after September 19th. So, what exactly is so significant about that particular date? The answer is that it was the date of a now historic UFO event that occurred to a married couple from New Hampshire. They were Betty and Barney Hill. At the time in question, the Hills were driving home from a vacation in Canada when the journey suddenly took on strange and unearthly proportions. It was on a dark stretch of road that the Hills caught sight of a curious light in the sky. It even seemed to be monitored.
Ice in their veins. That's perhaps the only way to describe
They
this
watched it
version of
for
the
a while,
bloodline.
and then
There's a kick and black mass. Lights out. Deep black. Just put end to the yes, right off the apron. No. Going to the cover. Shoulders are down.
Fucking long photo.
Wow, got it. Big time
there were
tag team
dreams that
win.
suggested that they may have been taken on board the
Here are your
craft
winners.
and even
The
And I might get rid of those one for series
The
22.
Bloodline got bested in this one.
Tonight was not the Bloodline's night, and there's no way they're going to just accept that.
When things got really bad,
absolutely
the
not.
The nightmares and stress began to overwhelm them. Barney, for example, developed stomach ulcers. They sought help. It was a very good idea, as that same help led to answers for what happened on that mystery-filled drive back to New Hampshire. They were put in touch with a neurologist and psychiatrist who operated out of Boston, Massachusetts, named Benjamin Simon. Clearly aware that the Hills were in deep states of anxiety, he elected to subject them to regressive...
The bell rings. The Bloodline will surely be looking to run roughshod in this match. That pack...
There's a kick and blood mass. Lights out. That's going to keep Sokoa down.
Going for the pin for the win.
Big time win in this tag team match. It's hooked in deep.
Subjected to a series of medical procedures.
Here are your winners.
Stressful. Frightening, even. The encounter went on for roughly 2 hours. The memories of Betty and Barney were so detailed that the amount of time Benjamin Simon worked with the Hills ended up being months. Such was the phenomenal reaction to the story of Betty and Barney Hill that it prompted author John Fuller to write a book on the subject, titled The Interrupted Journey. An appropriate title indeed.
Ice in their veins. That's perhaps the only way to describe this version of the Bloodline. Cold.
There's a kick and blood mass. Lights out. Does that close it out for Black? Oh, what a quick answer. Going for the cover. Solo. Shoulders are down.
And they score the win. What a tag match.
Particularly so, not publicity of a very controversial type. That sense, just as many silent abductees as publicly visible ones exist. To demonstrate the sheer level of experiences on record, though, it is worth noting that after Whitley Strieber's 1987 alien abduction-themed book Communion was published, Strieber and his late wife Anne received letters from the public in no fewer than 6 figures. Other books, such as Bud Hopkins' Missing Time and Dr. John Mack's Passport to the Cosmos.
The bell rings. The Bloodline will surely be looking to run roughshod in this match. That pack...
There's a kick and blood mass. Lights out. Alistair just turned the lights out. And he turned it around. Goes for the cover. Solo. Shoulders are down.
What a tag match we just saw.
Researchers and abductees believe that the outcome of the rise of hybrids will be a positive. Filled with prosperity and peace. Dr. David Jacobs, though, in his books The Threat and Walking Among Us, concludes that the hybrid issue is deeply dangerous, and that we are being infiltrated by aliens who, bit by bit, are infiltrating us with one goal in mind: complete control. The fact that many abductees believe they have been implanted with devices that have an unclear agenda.
The Bloodline looks as menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again.
There's a kick and blood mass. Lights out. Did Black just put an end to this?
Looking to put the match away here.
He makes the save. Bray Wyatt locks in the claw. This is agonizing.
It's hooked in deep.
Hybridization program with skepticism.
Lifting them up. Going for the cover. Solo. Shoulders are down. And the cover.
Comes out on top in this tag team match.
Aliens flying in space, exobiological law. The cryptoterrestrial population is genetically impoverished, as I assume it is, then it might rely on a harvest of human genes to augment its dwindling gene pool. It would be more advantageous to have us believe we're dealing with omnipotent extraterrestrials rather than a fallible sister species. The ET UFO mythos may be due in part to a long-running and most successful disinformation campaign.
The bell rings. The Bloodline will surely be looking to run roughshod in this match. That pass.
There's a kick and lights out. Does that close it out quickly? Right up the ankle.
He's going for the pin.
Oh, he's gone forward again.
And it's over. Big tag team win there.
What he said of Vilas Boas' story.
Here are your winners.
After the big-eyed succubus that seduced Antonio Vilas Boas pointed skyward, implying a cosmic origin. But the mere fact that she appeared thoroughly female, and moreover attractive, belies an unearthly explanation. Further, one could argue that the clinical environment he encountered aboard the landed spacecraft was deliberately engineered to reinforce his conviction that he was dealing with extraterrestrials.
The bell rings. The Bloodline will surely be looking to run roughshod in this match. That pack.
There's a kick and lights out.
Goodbye and good night.
It looks like he can get it done here.
Scores the win. What a great team. It's hooked in deep.
Their desire for continued survival following sacred genetic material has played a substantial role in helping us to avoid extinction during the Cold War, when the UFO phenomenon evolved in our skies, much to the consternation of officialdom. It is indeed a fact that in the early to late 1950s, countless people across the planet claimed close encounters with very human-looking aliens, who demanded that we lay down our atomic weapons lest we turn our planet into a radioactive wasteland, all but bereft of life. Of course, this begs an important question. Why would aliens from a planet in a star system, who knows how many light years away, even care about what might happen of a cataclysmic nature on our world? Well, a good
The
argument
Bloodline looks
can
as
be made
menacing
that
as
they
ever as
wouldn't
they
care.
prepare to establish their dominance once again. And
There's a kick and lights out.
It's over for Sakura.
Going for the cover. He might just have it.
Destroy the Earth on far more understanding.
And that's it. Scores the win for the team. It's hooked in deep.
Destructive species on the entire planet.
Here are your winners. The team
He says of what became known as the Space Brothers, commentators regularly assume that all the contactees, a term for those who claimed encounters with human-like aliens, chiefly in the 1950s, were lying or else delusional. But if we're experiencing a staged reality, some of the beings encountered by the contactees might have been real, and the common messages of universal brotherhood could have been a sincere
ice in their veins. That's perhaps the only way to describe this version of the Bloodline.
The
Cold.
extraterrestrial
There's a kick and lights out. Checkmate. It's over. Tama fights back.
Oh, man.
We have a hit. Shoulders are down.
Got it. What a match and what a great
Write
team.
publicly about the crypto-terrestrial theory. He got mixed responses from UFO researchers, as Tony's himself admitted to me. The crypto-terrestrial theory has met with mixed reactions. Some seem to think that I'm onto something. Most UFO researchers are at best extremely skeptical. Others think I'm parroting John Keel's Super Spectrum. Keel was the author of the acclaimed 1975 book The Mothman Prophecies, a variation on the parallel worlds theme that in turn shares memes
The Bloodline
with
looks as
Jacques
menacing as
Vallée's
ever as they
multiverse.
prepare to establish their dominance once
Ideas
again.
suggest that we
There's a
somehow
kick
have
and
a dimensional space without alien
Nobody's
visitors.
coming back from
In
that.
any way, the need for extraterrestrial spacecraft helping explain the sense of absurdity that accompanies many UFO and alien sightings. Keel and
Got it.
Vallée
Big time tag team win.
essentially cult ideas in cosmological
Here are your
terms.
winners.
Both the super spectrum and the multiverse require a revision of our understanding of the way reality itself works. But the crypto-terrestrial hypothesis is grounded in a more familiar context. Tony's expanded. I'm not suggesting unseen dimensions or the need for euphonauts to downshift to our level of consciousness. Rather, I'm asking if it's feasible that the alleged aliens that occupy historical and
The bell
contemporary
rings. The bloodline will surely be looking to run roughshod in this match. That pack.
Right here.
There's a kick and bloodbath. Lights out. Deep breath. Just put an end to this. There it is. Reversal. It could be all over.
The UFO phenomenon's paranormal aspect. Can attempt to explain the
Got it. There's the winners of the tag match.
For example, I see no damning theoretical reason why telepathy,
Here are your winners.
materialization,
The team up.
can ultimately be explained by appealing to cybernetics, nanotechnology, and other fields generally excluded from ufological discourse. He concluded, the crypto-terrestrial hypothesis manages to alienate champions of the extraterrestrial hypothesis and those who support a more esoteric, interdimensional explanation. It offers no clear-cut reconciliation. It does, however, wield explanatory potential.
Ice in their veins. That's perhaps the only way to describe this version of the bloodline. Cold.
There's a long-time UFO investigator.
That could put Solo down for good.
This is it. He could put him away right here.
Some people might suggest that because the
Got
Space
it.
Brothers
Big
look so
time tag team
because
win. It's hooked in deep.
or right here on Earth. In ancient
Here are
race
your winners. The
a
team
lot of cultural
up.
legends about advanced beings living underground, UFOs coming out of the oceans, lakes, caverns. The whole hollow Earth thing is a little hard for me, but the caverns theory I can take. I remember one incident in the 1970s where I was lecturing and a gentleman, a professor at the college where I was lecturing, came up to me and told this story about how he was driving outside of a town in Michigan. It was rather late at night.
The bell rings. The bloodline will surely be looking to run roughshod in this match.
There
That
was no
pack.
other traffic.
There's a
coming
kick
in
and
the direction.
bloodbath. Lights out.
There was already
Turn the lights
outside
out.
the road.
The cover for the
I
win.
see some sort of ship.
Got it. What a match and what a great team.
Something like that.
Here are your winners.
Watch them and
The team up.
they looked human. They just got in the car and drove off. But then a couple of weeks later, he sees one of the same guys in a supermarket. These reports sound far-fetched, but there's so many of them, of what seem to be aliens being able to move among us. But if they're really from here, that might explain it. Now we get to the issue of a U.S. government cover-up concerning the crypto-terrestrials.
The bloodline looks as menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again.
There's a kick and bloodbath. Lights out. Business here is all but over. Saw it coming. It powers it. Boom. Face front. There's the cover.
A guest. His real name, however, is Walter Bell.
Got it. What a tag match we just saw. It's hooked in deep.
The FOSI and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI. He has revealed a startling story told to him by his father, who was also a respected figure within the U.S. military. In the 1950s, Bosley's father worked on various projects that would ultimately have a significant bearing upon the manned space program, including training pilots in altitude chambers and flight medicine training. At one point in his career, Bosley's father was ordered to attend a briefing at Wright-Patterson Air Force
Ice in their
Base
veins. That's
in
perhaps
Dayton,
the only
Ohio.
way to describe this version of the bloodline. Cold.
On none other
There's a
than the
kick
legendary
and
UFO
Lights out.
Feel like it's over. Scores a cold. Shoulders down.
Secure UFO researchers and a sizable amount of public aid. Bosley says it's
Scores the win. What a great team. It's hooked in deep.
And that's faithful.
Here are your winners.
Pretty
The
faithful
team
game.
up. Alistair Black.
Bosley Jr.'s very own words. According to my father, these vehicles came from inside the planet. The civilization exists in a vast underground system of caverns and tunnels beneath the Southwest, and is human. He continues. Occasionally they come and go, emerging in their vehicles, and occasionally they crash. They are human in appearance.
The bloodline looks as menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again.
There's a kick and bloodbath. Lights out. That's going to keep Sokoa down. Yes, deep into the match. This could end it.
Significantly, Walter Bosley says, I believe
And they're tag match. It's hooked in deep.
Themselves, because it is most readily embraced by people who have encounters. These words bring us back to Mac Toney's and his theories on the conspiracy-filled Roswell affair of July 1947. In his 2009 book, The Crypto-Terrestrials, Tony speculated on the possibility that the Roswell craft was balloon-like and built, flown, and disastrously crashed by ancient humanoids that lurk in the depths of the planet. Controversial? Yes. But he made some interesting observations on this possibility.
Ice in their veins, that's perhaps the only way to describe this version of the bloodline. Cold.
There's a kick and blood mass. Lights out. The lights are out for Sokoa.
Does she have it?
And that's it. Scores the win for the team. It's hooked in deep.
Sees that the revealingly high-tech components. Dismiss the possibility that the crash was anything but a case of misidentification. Not even Major Jesse Marcel, the intelligence officer who advocated an ET origin for the unusual foil and structural beams, mentioned anything remotely resembling an engine or power plant. Tony's continued in a fashion that emphasized that the crypto-terrestrials may not be as scientifically and
The bell rings, the bloodline will
advanced
surely
as
be
they
looking
might
to run
prefer us
roughshot in
think
this
they are.
match. That pack.
There's a kick and blood mass. Lights out. Alistair just turned the lights out. Time to freak out here.
Could indeed have been the Balloon Boys' famous
Big time win in this tag team match. It's hooked in deep.
Here are your winners. The team of
Alistair Black versus excessive secrecy begins to make sense. Regardless of what you, me, or indeed any number of the well-known Roswell researchers, authors, such as Bill Moore, Kevin Randall, Stan Friedman, or Don Schmidt, might think or conclude, the fact is that Tony's crypto-terrestrial theory is probably the only one that allows for the Roswell crash site to have been comprised of very unusual non-Homo
The
sapiens.
bloodline looks as menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again.
There's a kick and blood mass.
The alien theory should, of course, require
Rockets to a close. Big shoulders down. I put the weight right now.
very unique in this matter.
And it's over. Big tag team win there. It's hooked in deep.
The military coming across aliens created
The team of
engines, as Tony's described them, are curiously absent from the Roswell affair. It's that aforementioned foil and not much else. Perhaps Tony's was indeed on the right track when it came to Roswell. Maybe Walter Bosley, who still pursues the story, is still on the right track. Just perhaps, it was the Roswell affair that, quite out of the blue, led the U.S. military to realize, to both its amazement and its fear, that we are not the only species of human on the planet. And in the process, a huge cover-up was initiated to ensure that the world never gets to know the true story of Roswell's crypto-terrestrials. The Strange Tale of a Time Traveler. From 2000 to 2001, the world of conspiracy theorizing was rocked when a man using the name of John Teeter came forward claiming to be a time traveler from the future, specifically from 2036. Such was the fascination with Teeter's story, conspiracy researchers took deep notice of what he had to say, to the point that what began as an interesting series of claims quickly became a veritable phenomenon. Was Teeter all that he claimed to be? Was his story of being a member of the U.S. military true? Was he really a man from the future? Or was the whole thing a strange hoax? Before we get to the matter of answering those questions, let's first take a look at the history of time travel in both reality and fiction. Within the specific genre of science fiction, fantastic tales of time travel to the far-flung future or to the distant past are hardly rarities. Take, for example, H.G. Wells's epic novel of 1895, The Time Machine. The The book tells the story of a brilliant London, England-based scientist, inventor, and adventurer who journeys to the year 802,701 CE, where, to his complete and utter dismay, he finds that the human race, in the form that we understand it at least, no longer exists. In its place are the Eloi and the Morlocks. The former are relatively human-looking beings, albeit of smaller stature, yet they utterly lack vitality, imagination, and any desire to learn or advance. The Morlocks, meanwhile, are fearsome, savage, and nightmarish beasts who dwell in darkened underground lairs and who use the Eloi as we use cattle, namely, as a source of food. In the 1968 movie Planet of the Apes, Charlton Heston's character, Taylor, a NASA astronaut, arrives on a nightmarish world run by a ruthless race of talking apes. Only at the film's climax, as he stumbles upon the broken remains of the Statue of Liberty, does Taylor realize with horror that he has not set foot on some far-off planet after all. Rather, he is home, 2,000 years in the future, after a worldwide nuclear holocaust has destroyed human civilization and given rise to the world of the apes. The Philadelphia Experiment is an entertaining Hollywood film allegedly based on real events, which tells the story of two sailors, David Herdag and Jim Parker, who are propelled through time from 1943 to the Nevada desert circa 1984. The BBC show The Flip Side of Dominic Hyde is also about time travel. The main character travels through time from 2130 CE to London, England in 1980. Ostensibly there to observe the transportation systems of the past, Hyde subsequently finds himself on a quest to locate one of his distant ancestors. Let's not forget Michael J. Fox's character, Marty McFly, who in the 1985 Hollywood comedy blockbuster Back to the Future travels through time to 1955, where he almost makes out with his then teenaged mom, comes perilously close to wiping out his own existence as a result of his time-traveling antics, and single-handedly invents rock and roll. Deja Vu is a 2006 movie with Denzel Washington that told the story of U.S. government agents trying to solve a terrorist attack by using secret time travel technology to look into the past.
Ice in their veins, that's perhaps the only way to describe this version of the bloodline.
Bruce Willis.
There's a kick and going for the cover. Shoulders are down.
That's it. Scores the win for the team.
Strange
It's
futures
hooked in
aside.
deep.
Here are your winners.
Is it possible
The team
that man can travel through time in much the same way that today we hop on a plane to take our yearly vacation? Time travel is not theoretically possible, for if it was, they'd already be here telling us about it. British physicist Professor Stephen Hawking famously said a number of years ago, "Even if time travel did one day become a possibility, it would be beset by major problems," as Hawking notes. Suppose it were possible
The
to go
bloodline
off
looks
in a
as
rocket
menacing as
ship
ever
and
as they
come back
prepare to
before you
establish
set
their
off.
dominance once again
What would
inside the
stop
ring.
you from
The
blowing
way
up
they're
the
going to put him
rocket from
away.
its launch pad, or otherwise
Quick
preventing
kick
you
out from
setting
Aleister
out in
Black.
the first place.
Premature to try to
There
end
are
things
other
now.
versions of this
There's a
paradox.
kick and bloodbath.
It's over for Sokoa.
Tony's the late author of the book After the Martian Apocalypse, a study of the controversial face on Mars mystery. We
Scores the win. What a great team.
potential problems cited by Hawking. Stephen Hawking
Here are your
condemned
winners.
time travel
The
because,
team
in his opinion, it should enable a constant stream of visitors from our own future. He assumes, perhaps unwisely, that we'd be aware of these visitors, when in truth, it's remarkably easy to think of reasons our ancestors might choose not to visit at all. Tony's continued. Other physicists are at work refuting the paradox of going back in time and killing your parents before you are born. If they're right, a time traveler from the future could interact with others, including his or her past self, so long as no action was taken that would endanger the travelers' own continued existence.
Ice in their veins, that's perhaps the only
To
way to
visualize
describe this
how
version of the
might work,
bloodline.
although the idea makes lots of sense.
Kick and bloodbath.
The best analogy would be a
just
physical
turned the
system that
lights out.
relies on
Yeah,
principal
right off the
basic
apron.
action, such as a ball, roll, inexorably
Drop kick hit. Going for the cover. Solo shoulders to down.
further noted, the fascinating upshot of this is that there's a chance
Wow, got it. Big time tag team win.
beings from our own future, but their interactions with us
Here are your winners.
would be necessarily
The
limited,
team of
lest they find themselves
Bray
in
Wyatt
our systems.
and
Tony's also wonders if the many UFO sightings that have been reported for decades may not be due to the actions of aliens from the other side of the galaxy, but the result of time-traveling humans masquerading as ET to keep secret their real point of origin. If time travel is possible, said Tony's, the behavior of UFOs may be at least partially explained. Formal contact with us would result in a causality violation of some sort, so they must remain content.
The bell
with
rings. The
maintaining
bloodline
their
will surely
presence
be looking to
behind
run
a
roughshod
curtain
in
of
this
some
match. That pack.
If we are indeed being visited by
Alistair had
contact,
there's a kick and bloodbath.
does that close it out for Black?
this ability is by what is known in physics as wormholes. A term coined in 1957 for theoretical
Got it.
physicists.
What a tag match we just saw.
Wormhole is basically a shortcut through both
Here are your
space and
winners.
time.
The team of
Evidence for the existence of these so-called time tunnels has not yet been firmly proven. They do not fall outside of the boundaries presented in Einstein's theory of general relativity. Indeed, in 1988, Kip Thorne, a gravitational theorist at Caltech, demonstrated that wormholes, if they existed, could be kept open by using what is known as Casimir energy, or exotic matter. The Casimir effect is based upon a force.
The bloodline looks as menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again inside the ring.
the latest incarnation of the bloodline only has to be
So,
He's able to counter that.
There's a kick and bloodbath. Lights out. Really looks about it. That's going to do it.
Jenny Grant
Shoulders down. This could be it.
time travel, including breaking the time barrier.
got it. There's the winners of the tag match. It's Hook and Deep.
Possibility. It's a cautionary view.
Here are your
on
winners.
traveling through time.
The team of
The ability to manipulate time would provide a dictator with the ultimate doomsday device, allowing one to change the past or adapt the future until it suited his or her own ends. Also, as Randall's perceptively notes, human society will face many difficult questions when that first time machine is switched on. Like the first moon landing, the discovery of time travel will change our world. The idea of time travel fascinates us because it offers us the possibility, however remote, of revisiting and recapturing a moment from our youth. The very first time we had sex, the day we bought our first car, that special night when we first got the chance to chug down a long, cold one. If time travelers from our future are secretly visiting us already, as Mac Toney suggests as a possibility, at least it shows that we have a future. Let's now take a look at a few claims of time travel in the real world. One of the most famous examples of what some researchers think may have been a definitive time slip involved two British women, Charlotte Ann Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain, who, it has been suggested, traveled through time while visiting the gardens of the Petit Trianon in Versailles, France. It was August 10th, 1901, when the pair paid a trip to the Palace of Versailles. While walking through the grounds, both Moberly and Jourdain were overcome by distinctly oppressive feelings of gloom and uneasiness. They would later claim to have met with a wide variety of individuals, all garbed in 18th century clothing, and who they came to believe had been members of the court of none other than Marie Antoinette. More controversially, the pair said they saw a figure they thought may very well have been Marie Antoinette herself. Did Moberly and Jourdain really cross the time barrier into centuries past? To this day, the story has as many believers as it does detractors. But we need to take careful note of one important factor. Their amazing story does not stand alone. Indeed, numerous reports are on record of people apparently passing through time, entirely at random, and without the benefit of any form of out-of-this-world technology. A key event in the First English Civil War, the Battle of Hopton Heath, a small village in South Shropshire, was fought on Sunday, March 19th, 1643, between Parliamentarian and Royalist forces. The battle ended at nightfall, with the actual victory and outcome still remaining matters of very much personal opinion. The Royalists, for example, had succeeded in capturing 8 enemy guns, while the Parliamentarians believed that their successful killing of the enemy commander, the Earl of Northampton, was of equal, if not even greater, significance. However, without doubt, of even more significance, was a startling event that occurred at some point in winter 1974. It was late at night, and then 36-year-old John Davy Davis, a Lichfield, Staffordshire-based house painter at the time, was driving near Hopton Heath when he began to feel unwell. An ominous tightness developed in his chest. He felt lightheaded, and as he succinctly put it, "My left ear hurt and felt hot." Quickly pulling over to the side of the road, Davis was amazed to see the night sky suddenly transformed into daylight, while the road in front of him no longer existed. Instead, it had been replaced by a mass of fields, heathland, and tangled trees. In front of him, countless soldiers adorned in what was clearly Civil War clothing waged harsh war upon one another. Notably, Davis said that although at one point he was nearly bloody surrounded by the soldiers, it was almost as if they could neither see him nor his vehicle. This afforded Davis a degree of relief, as he was practically frozen to the spot and couldn't have run if I had wanted to. As it transpired, Davis didn't need to run anywhere. Just a few seconds later, the bizarre scene suddenly vanished, and Davis found himself sitting at the edge of the road with his car squashed against a large line of hedge, and with complete and utter normality returned. Horning is an old village in Norfolk, England, situated between Wroxham and Ludham, on the River Bure. The village's ferry inn is typical of the many old taverns that dominate the area, and the 13th century church of St. Benedict can be found half a mile to the east of the village. On a summer's afternoon, in either 1978 or 1979, the Margolis family was enjoying a stroll around the picturesque village when, like so many before them and since, they were overcome by a feeling of distinct uneasiness and unreality, as well as total silence and a slight dizziness. That uneasiness quickly mutated into concern, fright, and overwhelming disorientation as the landscape became fuzzy, like a big heat haze. The houses were replaced by ancient cottages, and the road ahead of them became little more than a muddy track. As for the cars that had been in sight, they were no more. Instead, a battered and bruised cart appeared that was being pulled by a large cart horse. A thin man dressed in brown walked alongside the horse, yet appeared not to notice any of the family in the slightest. Suddenly, however, the modern-day sounds of cars and voices began to echo all around them, and the strange spectacle was now utterly gone. Notably, it seems that Mrs. Margolis may very well have been exposed to the odd scene for slightly less of a period of time than was her now late husband and their 11-year-old son. "I looked at them when I came out of it," recalled Mrs. Margolis in a 1997 interview, "and it was like they were in a trance. Their mouths were hanging down and their eyes looked funny. Then they looked like they woke up, and we were all back together again." Interestingly, odd and unsettling feelings and sensations, such as those referenced in each of these cases, were also referred to by author Andrew Mackenzie in his book Adventures in Time, Encounters with the Past. Such events, reported Mackenzie, are often accompanied by feelings of depression, eeriness, and a marked sense of silence, deeper than normally experienced. Similarly, Jenny Randall's book, Time Storms, Amazing Evidence for Time Warps, Space Rifts, and Time Travel, firmly demonstrates that whatever we may think we know about the nature of time, in reality, we may not even know the half of it. All of which brings us back to the matter of John Titor and his extraordinary claims of traveling from the future to the year 2000. Undoubtedly, John Titor's claims stretch credulity to the absolute max, particularly so because many of his claims did not come to pass. For his supporters, though, that's not a problem. They suspect that multiple alternative timelines may exist rather than just one, which admittedly provokes even more controversy. It all began at the dawning of the 21st century. It was just 1 year before 9/11 that John Titor turned up on various online forums, claiming to be one of Uncle Sam's warriors, but from 36 years in the future. The story that Titor told was not a good one. In fact, it was downright grim and disturbing. Some might even say it was bone-chilling. It's important to note that we don't even know whether John Titor was the man's real name. Initially, his claims that were posted online went nameless. That changed when in early 2001, Titor began posting extraordinary stories to the late Art Bell's BBS forums. Since the site required users to provide a name, our alleged time traveler chose John Titor. According to his story, Titor lived and worked in Tampa, Florida in 2036. He had a mission to travel back in time to 1975, ostensibly to access certain computer-based technologies that could, in some unclear fashion, help the people of the future with their very own computers. It is hardly surprising that Titor's claims became big news, and very quickly, particularly so at the late Art Bell's site. When Titor's claims and predictions were made in the 2000-2001 period, they understandably shook up a lot of people. After all, he was talking about nuclear war, the collapse of much of civilization, a future that was both dangerous and dark, and a world very different from ours. In many respects, even unrecognizable. Let's see what exactly Titor had to say. John Titor loudly proclaimed that a civil war would begin in 2004, which would progress until it really blew up big time in 2008. Such was the scale of the Civil War, said Titor, that the United States fragmented into 5 separate regions. Things got worse. In 2015, Russia launched a number of nuclear missiles at the United States, which caused massive death, destruction, and turmoil. Titor said that the people of 2036 referred to this brief, terrible exchange between the United States and Russia as N-Day. Of course, it's important to note that none of this ever happened, and more significantly, Titor made no mention of 9/11, without doubt the worst attack ever on the United States next to the events of Pearl Harbor in December 1941. Titor, however, had a get-out clause for this highly problematic part of his overall story. Namely, he explained that the future was not set in stone. Traveling back and forth in time could result in the creation of multiple timelines. In other words, Titor implied this future and our future might be radically different. In his world, a brief Third World War occurred, but no 9/11. On this very matter, Mike Sabay,
The bell rings, the Bloodline will surely be looking to run roughshod in this match. That pack
says,
there's a kick.
the skeptics, this represents too easy a path. Facing John Stewart, leading many to dismiss the story out of hand the moment they come across what Wikipedia is tag match. Titor himself acknowledged this problem with his story.
The team of Alistair Black,
When the day comes for my
and
prediction to be realized, it will either happen or not. If it does happen, then your ability to judge your environment is crippled by your acceptance of me as a knower of all things, and gifted with the ability to tell the future. If I am wrong, then everything I have said that might possibly have made you think about your world in a different way is suddenly discredited. I do not want either. Although I do have personal reasons for being here and speaking with you, the most I could hope for is that you recognize
ice in their veins. That's perhaps the only way to describe this version of the bloodline. Cole.
There's a kick and that's a game ender, gentlemen. And that holds Hogan back. He goes for the pin.
Could this be it?
Just escapes defeat.
And you now have the ability to act on it based on what I
Wyatt's
said.
got the claw.
Can you stop the
Kick
rule?
and black mass. Lights out. The lights are on for Sakura.
And it's over. Big tag team win there.
Vanished in 2001. His claims, however,
Here are
still
your winners.
intrigue and They believe that he is not the hoaxer that many believe him to be, but someone whose claims of multiple timelines in our future can explain the inconsistencies in Teeter's tales. When aliens become deadly. The following report, titled Research Findings on the Chihuahua Disc Crash, originally from J.S. to Deneb team members, and dated 23rd March 1992.
The bloodline looks as menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again.
There's a kick and black mass. Lights out. Alistair just turned the lights out. Got the cover. Is it enough to close this out?
The report appears to have been
Got it. What a match and what a great team. It's Hogan deep.
The desire to
Here are your
release
winners.
the evidence.
The team of Alistair Black,
The report
Bray
reads,
Wyatt, and
on 25 August 74, at 22:07 hours, U.S. air defense radar detected an unknown approaching U.S. airspace from the Gulf of Mexico. Originally, the object was tracked at 2,200 knots, 2,530 miles per hour, on a bearing of 325 degrees and at an altitude of 75,000 feet. A course that would intercept U.S. territory about 40 miles southwest of Corpus Christi, Texas. After approximately 60 seconds of observation at a position 155 miles southeast of Corpus Christi, the object simultaneously decelerated to approximately 1,700 knots, 1,955 miles per hour, turned to a heading of 290 degrees, and began a slow descent. It entered Mexican airspace approximately 40 miles south of Brownsville, Texas. Radar tracked it approximately 500 miles to a point near the town of Coyame.
The bell rings. The bloodline will surely be looking to run roughshod in this match. That pack mentality in full force here.
you have to remember, there's a kick and black mass. Lights out.
That could put Solo down for good.
Is victory close? This could be
And
it.
descended.
Comes out on top in this tag team match. It's Hogan deep.
Here are your winners. The team of
The object was tracked by two different military radar installations. It would have been within range of Brownsville civilian radar, but it is assumed that no civilian radar detected the object due to a lack of any such reports. The point of disappearance from the radar screens was over a barren and sparsely populated area of northern Mexico. At first, it was assumed that the object had descended below the radar's horizon, and a watch was kept for any
The bell
reemergence
rings. The
of
bloodline will
object.
surely be looking to run roughshod in this match. That pack mentality in
At first, it
full
was assumed
force
that
here.
the object might
You have
be
to remember,
medium,
Cole, that this version of the
high
bloodline,
speed and descending
there's a
flight.
kick and black mass. Lights out.
Now that's how you put the nail in the coffin. He's making his move.
Meteors do not normally make 35-degree change.
And it's over. Big tag team win there. It's Hogan deep.
Was called. However, before any
Here are your
point of
winners.
interception,
The team of
the object turned to a course that would not immediately take it over U.S. territory. The alert was called off within 20 minutes after the object's disappearance from the radar screen. 52 minutes after the disappearance, civilian radio traffic indicated that a civilian aircraft had gone down in that area. But it was clear that the missing aircraft had departed El Paso International with a destination of Mexico City, and could not, therefore, have been the object tracked over the Gulf of Mexico.
The bloodline looks as menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again. There's a kick and lights out.
That has to be the end right there.
Going for the cover. Shoulders are down.
There came a radio report that wreckage from the missing
Comes out on top in this
plane.
tag team match.
Almost immediately came a report of a second plane on the ground
Here are your
a few
winners.
miles.
The team up.
2 minutes later, an additional report stated that the second plane was circular-shaped and apparently in one piece, although damaged. A few minutes after that, the Mexican military clamped a radio silence on all search efforts. The radio interceptions were reported through channels to the CIA. Possibly as many as 2 additional government agencies also received reports. But such has not
Ice
been
in their
confirmed
veins, that's
as of
perhaps
this
the
date.
only way to describe
The
this
CIA
version of the bloodline.
immediately began
Cold-blooded,
forming a
remorseless, and
recovery
willing to do
team.
anything to stake their
The speed
claim
with which
here.
this team
There's a
quickly
kick and
settled
blood
its
mass.
defense.
Lights out.
This was either a well-rehearsed
Just put an
exercise
end to this.
or
This could be it. He could win it all here.
meantime, requests were initiated by the highest
Bray Wyatt locks in the claw. This is
that the
agonizing.
U.S. recovery team be allowed on
And that
Mexican
can vanquish
territory to
Thomas.
assist.
He
These
finds a
requests
counter.
were met with professed ignorance and flat refusal of any cooperation. By 2100 hours,
Some good
26 August
contact by Bray
74,
Wyatt.
the
Get the ice
recovery
pack
team
ready.
had assembled
Very
and been
effective.
staged at Fort Bliss.
Leg drop. It's
Flown in,
effective.
some
Hogan
unknown
can
source,
taste it
and settled
now.
in a secure area. These helicopters were painted a
Oh, look at
neutral
this.
sand
Just
color.
cranking the head.
Bore
That's
no
gotta
markings.
hurt.
Eyewitness indicates that there were 3 smaller craft, very possibly
evades the
UH-1
attack.
Kiwis from the description. There was also a larger helicopter, possibly a sea stallion. Personnel from this team remained with their craft and had no contact with other Fort Bliss personnel.
Effective
Satellite
counter.
and reconnaissance aircraft over flight that day indicated that both the crash disc and
He's
the
got the
civilian
support of
aircraft
the whole
had been
arena
removed
right
from the
now.
crash sites and loaded on flatbed trucks. Later flights confirmed
Setting it
that the
up.
convoy departed the area heading south.
Brainbuster.
At that point, the CIA had taken trips.
Got it. What
Either
a
to allow
match
this
and
unknown
what a great
aircraft to
team.
stay in the hands of the Mexican government, or to launch the
Here are your
recovery
winners.
team, supplemented by any required military support to take the craft. There occurred, however, an event that took the choice out of their hands. High-altitude overflights indicated that the convoy had stopped before reaching any inhabited areas or major roads. Recon showed no activity, and radio contact between the Mexican recovery team and its headquarters ceased. A low-altitude, high-speed overflight was ordered. The photos returned by that aircraft showed
The bloodline looks as menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again. There's a kick and blood mass. Lights out.
Feeling like it's over for
The
Sokoa.
decision was immediately made to launch the recovery team. The actual launching was held back.
Got it. What a tag match we just saw. It's hooked in deep.
It was until 1438
Here are your winners.
that the helicopter
Team up. Alistair Black. Bray Wyatt.
helicopters followed the border town towards Presidio, then turned and entered Mexican airspace north of Candelaria. They were over the convoy site at 16:53 hours. All convoy personnel were dead, most within the trucks. Some recovery team members dressed in bioprotection suits reconfigured the straps holding the object on the flatbed truck, then attached them to a cargo cable from the Sea Stallion. By 17:14 hours,
The bell rings. The
recovered
bloodline will
object
surely
was
be
on its
looking
way
to run
US
roughshod in this
territory.
match. That pack.
Before leaving
There's
the
a kick.
convoy site, members of the recovery team gathered together to Mexican vehicles and bodies, then destroyed all explosives. This included the pieces of the civilian light plane.
There's the winners of the tag match. It's hooked in deep.
At 17:46 hours, the Hueys departed.
Here are your winners.
This was followed with the Sea Stallion as it re-entered U.S. airspace. The recovery team then proceeded to a point in the Davis Mountains, a approximately 25 miles northeast of Valentine. There they landed and waited until 0225 hours the next morning. At that time, they resumed the flight and rendezvoused with a small convoy on a road between Van Horn and Kent. The recovered disc was transferred to a truck large
The
enough
bloodline
to
looks as
handle it,
menacing as ever as they
capable of
prepare to
being
establish their
sealed
dominance
totally.
once again. And
There's
Some
a
of the
kick.
personnel from the crews transferred to the convoy.
Does that close it out for
All
Blood?
helicopters then returned to their original bases for decontamination procedure.
Got it. Big time tag team win. It's hooked in deep.
The destination of the convoy was Atlanta. Here, the hard evidence thins out. One unconfirmed report says the disc was eventually transferred to Wright-Patterson AF base. Another says that the disc was either transferred after that to another unnamed base, or was taken directly to this unknown base directly from Atlanta. The best description of the disc was that it was 16 feet, 5 inches in diameter.
ice in their veins, that's
Convex on
perhaps
both
the only way
upper
to
and
describe
lower
this version of the
surfaces to same
bloodline.
degree,
Cole?
possessing no visible pores.
Lights out. The lights are out for
Slightly
Sakura.
less than 5
He's
feet.
coming in. He's got him.
There was no
Big time win in this tag team match. It's hooked in deep.
There were 2 areas of the rim that showed damage, one showing a regular hole approximately 12 inches in diameter with indented material around it. The other damage was described as a dent about 2 feet wide. The weight of the object was estimated as approximately 1,500 pounds, based on the effect of the weight on the carrying helicopter and those who transferred it to the truck. There was no indication in the documentation available as to whether anything was visible in
The bell
hole.
rings, the bloodline will surely be looking to
It
run
seems likely
roughshod
that
in
the
this
damage
match.
with
That
the
pattern.
hole was caused by the collision with the civilian aircraft. That collision occurred while the object was traveling approximately 1,700 knots, 1,955 miles per hour. Even ignoring the speed,
And they score the win. What a tag match. It's hooked in deep.
This is in agreement with the description of the civilian aircraft as being almost totally destroyed. What was being taken from the crash site were pieces of the civilian aircraft. The second damage may have resulted when the object impacted with the ground. The speed in that case should have been considerably less than that of the first impact. No mention is made of the occupants of the civilian aircraft. It is not known if anybody or bodies were
The
recovered.
bloodline looks as menacing as ever as
Considering
they
the
prepare to
destruction of the
establish their
civilian light
dominance once
aircraft
again.
in midair,
There's a kick.
bodies may well not have come down near the larger vessel.
Alistair just turned the lights out.
Unfortunately, what caused the death
The
of the
leg right
Mexican
out from
recovery
under.
team
Here's the cover. Does he have it?
speculation ranges from the chemical released from the disc as a result of damage
Scores the win.
to
What a great team.
agent. There are no indications of death or illness by any of the U.S. recruits. It would not have been illogical for the recovery team to have taken one of the bodies back with them for analysis. But there is no indication of that having happened. Perhaps they did not have adequate means of transporting what might have been a biologically contaminated body. Inquiries to the FAA reveal no documents concerning the civilian aircraft crash, probably because it did not involve a U.S. aircraft, nor did it occur over U.S.
Ice in their
airspace.
veins, that's perhaps the only
It
way
should
to
be
describe
noted
this
that the
version of the
above facts
bloodline.
do
Cole?
not tell the
There's
complete
a
story.
kick.
Nothing is known of the analysis of the crash reports
Brought to a close.
Nothing is known about the deaths associated with the foreign recovery team. Or is it known as this
Got it.
now?
What a tag match we just saw. It's
Questions
hooked
also
in deep.
remain, such as why would a recovered disc be taken to Atlanta? Where did the disc come from? It was first detected approximately 200 miles from U.S. territory, yet U.S. air defenses extend to a much greater distance than that. If the object descended into the atmosphere, perhaps NORAD space tracking has some record of the object. Alternate possibility is that it entered the Gulf of Mexico under radar limits, then jumped up to 75,000 feet. Considering prior
Ice in their
behavior
veins, that's
exhibited by
perhaps the
discs
only
of
way to
this
describe
size,
this version of the
it is
bloodline.
probable
Cole?
that the entry
There's a
was
kick.
from a whirlpool Starting in February of this year,
I think I know what's coming next. Get ready.
Oh, this could be it. They could end it
On
right
the
here.
description of the crash and recovery, the unknown object broadly conforms to the data
And that's
presented
it.
in huddle
Scores the win for the team.
reference to an apparently lethal biological agent
Here are your
present
winners.
at the scene. However, it is not without precedent. For example, the so-called and unofficially released Majestic 12 First Annual Report document refers to what appear to have been similar biological agents present at UFO crash sites in New Mexico in 1947. According to one extract from the allegedly real, top-secret U.S. government document titled Biological Warfare Programs, BW
The bloodline looks as menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again.
There's a kick.
Discovery of new bacteria agents and
It's over for Sokola.
by genetic research
Going for the cover.
science and unheard of the samples extracted
Scores the
from bodies
win.
found in
What a
New
great
Mexico
team.
have yielded new strains of retrovirus not totally
Here are your
understood,
winners.
but give promise of the ultimate BW weapon. The danger lies in the spread of airborne and blood-borne outbreaks of diseases in large populations with no medical cures available. The document continues. The panel was concerned over the contamination of several SED personnel upon coming in contact with debris near the power plant. One technician was overcome and collapsed.
The bell rings. The bloodline will surely be looking to run roughshod in this match. That
technician went into a
There's a
coma.
kick.
Hours after the body with rubber body
Put Solo down for
crushed to Los Alamos
He wants that
station. All four later died of seizures.
big time win in this tag team match. It's hooked in
In
deep.
contact with body fluids from the occupants.
Here are your winners.
Autopsies on the four dead SED technicians are not conclusive. It is believed that the four may have suffered from some form of toxin or a highly contagious disease. Tissue samples are currently being kept at Fort Detrick, Maryland. In the opinion of the senior AEC medical officer, current medical equipment and supplies are wholly inadequate in dealing with a large-scale outbreak of the alien virus.
Ice in their veins. That's perhaps the only way to describe this version of the
The
bloodline.
unauthenticated
There's a kick.
interplanetary phenomenon unit number 1947
Keep Sokola
states
down.
with respect to individuals present in the crash site in New Mexico that same year. Ground personnel and
Shoulders down.
experienced
Is
some
this
form
it?
of contamination resulting in the deaths of 3 technicians.
Comes out on top in this tag team match.
Autopsies are scheduled to determine this death.
Here are your winners.
The location to which the disc was apparently taken, namely Atlanta, Georgia. It transpires, somewhat intriguingly, that Atlanta is home to the headquarters of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The CDC is at the forefront of helping to lessen and ultimately stop any and all threats posed by hostile forces that may wish to unleash deadly viruses upon the United States and its people. Category A
The bloodline
viruses
looks as
for the
menacing as
CDC
ever as they
are
prepare to
considered
establish
be
their
the most
dominance
serious
once again. And
of
there's a kick.
Does that close out the blood? Easily spread and transmit that result in high death rates.
Got it. There's the winners of the tag match. It's hooked in deep.
Panic, sense of disruption,
Here are your
and
winners.
that would require special action for public health preparedness. It practically goes without saying that all 4 of those criteria that fall into the CDC's Category A could more than easily apply to the outbreak of a virus that returns the dead to some psychotic semblance of life. Moreover, and by the CDC's very own admission, its work is a critical component of overall U.S. national security. The U.S. government most assuredly
Ice in their veins.
recognizes
That's
the
perhaps the
critical
only way to
importance
describe
of
this version of the
CDC
bloodline.
from that
Cold.
very same
There's a
national
kick.
security perspective.
Lights out.
Currently, the CDC receives yearly funding of around $1.3 billion to build and strengthen national security
And they score the win.
emergencies
tag match.
caused by
It's
natural,
hooked in deep.
accidental, or intentional events.
Here are your winners.
It also works closely with the Department of Homeland Security and with FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Considering that it was suspected by U.S. authorities that the team of Mexican military personnel was killed by a microbiological agent, and possibly even a fast-acting virus of alien origins, the CDC at Atlanta would have been the absolute ideal place to transfer any infected corpses for careful examination.
The bell rings. The Bloodline will surely be looking to run roughshod in this match. That pattern.
There's a kick.
Lights out. Dick Black just put an end to this.
He's going for the cover.
Got it. What a match and what a great team.
And a well-executed move we just saw there.
Here are your winners. The team
It's
of
titled
Alistair Black.
Mexico's Roswell, the Chihuahua UFO crash. Not only did the pair dig deep into the story, they also traveled out to the site of the incident and were able to secure significant important data that helped corroborate the original material provided to Elaine Douglas. Mexican UFO researcher Jaime Maussan also got involved. He dispatched a group of investigators to look into the mystery. One of those who knew of the incident was
The Bloodline looks as menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again inside the ring.
The latest incarnation of the Bloodline only has one mode. Total destruction. Doesn't matter who you are, you will.
There's a kick and
Lights out. Does that
What I
put
did
it
see
out
was
to
the
black?
movement through this area, but in reality,
3-on-3 matches are always an interesting situation. One of these guys, he might have
However, I
it
did hear
Is
that
this it?
Torres and Uriarte were able to uncover something that may have had a bearing on the incident.
Got it. Big
Something
time
that
tag
could have
team
affected
win.
the working of the UFO with the aircraft. Perhaps
Here are
even
your
both.
winners. The
They
team
said,
of
before colliding with the aircraft somewhere north of Coyane, the UFO traversed the skies over Coahuila State, passing directly over a very strange region of Mexico known as La Zona del Silencio, the Zone of Silence. Located about 400 miles southeast of El Paso, the area got its name from the strange natural phenomena that have been observed there over the years, in addition to numerous sightings of
ice in their
UFOs
veins.
and
That's perhaps the
mysterious
only way to
beings.
describe this version
The
of the
area is
Bloodline.
said to generate mysterious
there's a kick.
waves
It's
of electromagnetic energy.
Signed, sealed, and delivered.
Another electric devices.
We're going to end this once and for all.
It was also discovered that one of those who may have played a significant role in the Mexican
And
incident
it's over.
was the
Big
late
tag
Spanish
team win
physicist
there.
and Nobel Prize winner Luis W. Alvarez.
Here are your winners.
The official website for Nobel Prize notes of Alvarez. Luis W. Alvarez was born in San Francisco, California on June 13, 1911. He received his Bachelor of Science from the University of Chicago in 1932, a Master of Science in 1934, and his PhD in 1936. Dr. Alvarez joined the Radiation Laboratory of the University of California. He was on leave at the Radiation Laboratory of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology from 1940 to 1943, at the Metallurgical Laboratory of the University of Chicago in 1943-1944, and at the Los Alamos Laboratory of the Manhattan District from 1944 to 1945. During the war at MIT, he was responsible for 3 important radar systems: the Microwave Early Warning System, the Eagle High-Altitude Bombing System, and a Blind Landing System of civilian as well as military value, GCA, or Ground Controlled Approach. While at the Los Alamos Laboratory, Professor Alvarez developed the detonators for setting off the plutonium bomb. He flew as a scientific observer at both the Alamogordo and Hiroshima explosions. Alvarez died in 1988. Torres and Uriarte made an important observation in relation to Alvarez. Alvarez's military contract work early in his career led him to becoming a staunch supporter and defender of the U.S. military and its initiatives over the years. Consequently, the U.S. government often used Alvarez as a consultant on special projects, such as the Central Intelligence Agency's Scientific Advisory Panel on unidentified flying objects, also known as the Robertson Panel of 1953. In other words, Alvarez would have been an ideal person to bring on board and investigate the remains of the downed UFO. The research of Torres and Uriarte continues. Bio-war conspiracies. Fears of attacks by bacteriological warfare have been on the minds of way more than a few people since the age of terror began with 9/11. It's worth noting, though, that nothing is new about the deadly technology and the fears surrounding it. Bacteriological warfare in the United States is a decades-old, still partly classified FBI document. Portions of it are now in the public domain, thanks to the Freedom of Information Act. The more than 700 pages that are available tell an intriguing and sinister story. A comprehensive study of the very earliest entries in the file reveals that of great significance to the FBI was a paper titled The Bacteriological War.
The bell rings. The Bloodline will surely be looking to run roughshod in this match. That packed.
There's a kick and blood mass. Lights out. That's one hell of an exclamation mark. Yank right up the apron. Oh, no. Going for the cover. He might just have it.
And they score the win. What a tag match. It's back in deep.
That will probably be seized upon.
Here are your
further
winners.
development
That's the match.
furnish better possibilities than those of that time. The attack will apparently be directed chiefly against the civil population, insofar as one's own troops cannot be protected against contagion by immunization during use at the front. The FBI no doubt read with alarm as Hartman speculated that virus infections are possible. As means of attack, the airplane will apparently be used, and the infection result from the throwing down or strewing of cultures, which will be probably mixed with indifferent substances of
The
heavier
Bloodline looks as menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again.
There's a kick and blood mass. Lights out. Alistair just turned the lights out. Right at the end of it. This might be it.
Got it. There's the winners of the tag match. It's hooked in deep.
Here are your winners. The team of
Destruction, written by Hermann Rauschning, to the effect that Hitler was experimenting with the use of diseased germs, such as tularemia, which germs, it was contemplated, would be refrigerated and then thrown from airplanes on civilian population. In 1941, and of even greater alarm to the FBI, was a 9-page paper titled, Is a War of Bacteria Possible?
Ice in their veins. That's perhaps the only way to describe this version of the Bloodline. Cold.
there's a kick and blood mass. Lights out. Put a bow on it. This one's wrapped up. Shoulder down. This might do it.
Got it. What a match and what a great team.
Devastated the world. These epidemics ravaged more than wars with large casualty lists. Old people, women, children fell victims to them indiscriminately. By tremendous efforts and at great pains, humanity has conquered these enemies. We owe it to measures of hygiene and the findings of medical research that the most dangerous epidemics today hardly constitute a threat to the civilized parts of the world. The doctor continued, only a diseased brain could evolve the thought of misusing the progress of science and its heroic discoveries.
The Bloodline looks as menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again.
There's a kick and blood mass. Lights out. That can certainly do it. Yeah, right up the apron. With the cover. This might be it.
Got it. What a tag match we just saw. It's hooked in deep.
Here are your winners. The team of
The paper added that this threat is to be taken seriously. It can be carried out, and forces are now at work to convert it into actuality. And continued thus. The idea of the war of bacteria is traceable to a circumstance almost totally unknown, namely, that the fate of a war is decided far more by the amount of disease than by the number of wounded.
Ice in their veins, that's perhaps the only way to describe this version of the bloodline. Cole.
There's a kick and blood mass. Lights out. That's got to be the end right there. Hogan's offense gets foiled. Face first. Big shoulders down. Put him away right now.
Wow, got it. Big time tag team win.
Against which there is
Here are your winners. The
no
team up.
no remedial possibilities. Dr. Gumpert concluded, since no madness is impossible in these wretched times, when the fate of millions is subject to the fancies and notions of a few, it is imperative that steps be taken to safeguard mankind from this extreme madness. Civilization must be spared the disgrace that the great deeds of her progress have led to nothing more than back to the road of the more sinister.
Ice in their veins, that's perhaps the only way to describe this version of the bloodline. Cold-blooded, remorseless.
There's a kick and blood mass. Lights out. Does that close out for blood?
Going for the cover. Solo shoulders are down.
Scores the win. What a great team. It's hooked in deep.
Here are your winners.
In this,
The team up.
experimenting with the use of disease-producing organisms such as tularemia, which, it was contemplated, would be refrigerated and thrown from airplanes on civilian populations in the prosecution of the war. He has apparently quoted extracts from an official German army journal published in September 1939, which discussed the possibilities of unleashing disease-laden germs upon the civilian populations in France and Great Britain. The irreconcilable
The bell rings. The bloodline will surely be looking to run roughshod in this match. That pack.
There's a kick and blood mass. Lights out. There is no coming back from that.
Going for the cover. Solo shoulders are down.
And that's it. Scores the win for the team. It's hooked in deep.
Here are your winners. The team up.
Fortunately, that crazed, deranged lunatic named Adolf Hitler did not succeed in his terrible plans, as history has shown. Mentioning to many of the leading lights in the field of so-called cattle mutilations, the idea that the admittedly weird phenomenon might have far more to do with the work of a clandestine group in government or the military than it does with black-eyed aliens.
Ice in their veins, that's perhaps the only way to describe this version of the bloodline. Cold.
There's a kick and blood mass. Lights out. Black might have brought this to a close. And Wyatt falls to a counter.
Cover. Hoping to end this.
And that
Comes out on top in this tag team match.
Believers in the theory that ETs like to chow down.
Here are your winners.
Nice tasty
The
steak.
team up.
Aliens, then who else could be responsible? For the most part, they scoff at the idea of predators, cults, and the government, the latter being them in paranoia land, as the culprits. The fact of the matter, however, is that for decades, no less, various official bodies have taken a clandestine and concerned interest in animal deaths and injuries all across the United States, but not for reasons relative to the actions of menacing...
The bell rings. The bloodline will surely be looking to run roughshod in this match. That pack.
There's a kick and blood mass. Lights out. The lights are out for Sokoa.
Going for the cover. Solo shoulders are down.
Got it. What a match and what a great team. It's hooked in deep.
Think I'm wrong?
Here are your winners.
Think the
The team
government isn't keeping careful and secret watch on the U.S. cattle population for reasons of a national security nature? If you do, it's time to think again. J.R. Ruggles, the FBI special agent in charge of the Savannah, Georgia office of the Bureau in the early to mid-1940s, wrote thus to FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover on February 3, 1943. This office has received a copy of a
The
communication.
bloodline looks as menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again.
There's a kick and lights out. That's going to keep Sokoa down. Going for the pin for the win.
Directors of Intelligence and the Service Command.
Got it. What a tag match we just saw. It's hooked in deep.
The attention
Here
of
are
this
your winners.
division.
The team
The immediate future of an attempt on the part of the enemy to plant bombs containing germs or to endeavor to create an epidemic, such as hoof and mouth disease, among cattle and other livestock. It is requested that should any information concerning the above come to the attention of the Directors of Intelligence of the Service Commands, or the ACFS, Assistant Chief of Staff, G2, Army Intelligence, Western Defense Command.
Ice in their veins, that's
The
perhaps
same
the
be
only way to
transmitted
describe
by
this
the most
version of the bloodline.
expeditious
Cold-blooded,
means.
remorseless, and willing to do anything to stake their claim here.
There's a kick and lights out. Alistair just turns the lights out.
Going for the cover. Someone shoulders to that.
And they score the win. What a tag match. It's hooked in deep.
Here are your winners.
Bacterial
The team up.
The document states, a review of the book entitled Sabotage by Michael Sayers and Albert E. Kahn, which was published in September of 1942, discloses the following data. The complete record of sabotage carried out by Chernov, supposedly of the German intelligence service in Russia during 1930 to 1936, is too long to put into the book, according to the authors.
The bloodline looks as menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again.
There's a kick and lights out. Larry might have brought this to a close.
Going for the cover. Someone shoulders to that.
Got it. There's the winners of the tag match. It's hooked in deep.
Here are your winners. The team up.
Certain plagues by having virulent bacteria placed in medicinal syrup. In another point, the authors have asked the question, could such wholesale sabotage of agriculture as took place in the Soviet Union take place in the United States of America? They then answer the question that regardless of how fantastic it might sound, such diabolical sabotage was actually practiced by German saboteurs.
The bell rings, and the bloodline will surely be looking to run roughshod in this match. That pack.
There's a kick and lights out.
Feeling like it's over for Sokoa.
Goes for the pin.
The end could be near. And it's over. Big tag team win there. It's hooked in deep.
Here are your winners. The team up.
Gilder returned to America with a supply of cultures of glanders and anthrax germs. Financed by von Papen, he set up a laboratory in Chevy Chase near Washington and started breeding germs on a large scale for infecting mules, horses, and cattle awaiting shipment to the Allies. This man then organized a band of some 12 assistants to travel around the country.
The bloodline looks as menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again.
There's a kick and lights out. That's going to keep Sokoa down.
And top the reverses. They might be able to put this one away right here.
And that's it. Scores the win for the team.
At last, Gilder revolted against his mission.
Here are your winners. The team up.
Before the end of the war. Could it happen here? It did happen here. The FBI's declassified records from 1945 reveal that the issue of cattle being potentially affected by bacteriological warfare was a major one. A memo to Hoover dated July 6, 1945 states, "You may be interested in the following information which was reported by the SAC, Special Agent in Charge, of the Norfolk Field Division following a weekly intelligence conference on June 28, 1945. The document refers to the work of a man whose identity is concealed to this day within the pages of the declassified documents. employed by the then Army Air Force at Langley Field, Virginia, and who had
ice in their veins. That's perhaps the only way to describe this version of the bloodline. Cole.
There's a kick and blood mass. Lights out. Did Black just put an end to this? Face first. Gosh.
He's got it down. Here we go.
Is that all she wrote? Comes out on top in this tag team match.
Territory, which were determined to have been carrying.
Here are your winners. The team Alistair Black, Bray Wyatt.
I was told that such bacteria mainly affects cattle. When the bacteria lands on wheat or other types or farmland where food is being raised for the cattle, the bacteria remain in the food when it is eaten by the cattle. And upon human consumption of the milk or wheat, the bacteria can be passed on. Particularly notable is a July 11th, 1949 document that refers to the FBI's
The bloodline looks as menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again.
There's a kick and blood mass. Lights out. The lights are out for Sokoa. Getting right off the apron. He's on the 3 count here.
Big time win in this tag team match. It's hooked in deep.
Here are your winners. The team
as a result of cholera. The files, however, make it clear that in official FBI headquarters, the nature of the animals' deaths had been viewed with deep suspicion. It was concluded that the deaths were due to a variant virus, or atypical virus, that stemmed from local conditions and the physical conditions of the hogs. The important factor, however, is that this document was found within a file.
Ice in their veins. That's perhaps the only way to describe this version of the bloodline. Cole.
There's a kick and blood mass. Lights out. That's a game ender, gentlemen.
Going for the cover. Solo shoulders are down.
Wow, got it. Big time tag team win. It's hooked in deep.
Here are your winners. The team Alistair Black.
Plague-infected rats at the highly sensitive Sandia Base, New Mexico, and which was viewed in some quarters as being the result of nothing less than a deliberate attempt to clandestinely introduce a widespread plague on Sandia by hostile, unknown sources. As an example, a document prepared by the FBI special agent in charge of its Albuquerque, New Mexico branch on June 22nd, 1950.
The bell rings, and the bloodline will surely be looking to run roughshod in this match. That packs.
There's a kick and blood mass. Lights out. Alistair just turned the lights out.
Going for the cover.
Solo shoulders are down.
Got it. There's the winners of the tag match. It's hooked in deep.
Here are your winners. The team
The FBI noted with respect to its interview with a plague expert, who was identified only as a Miss Greenfield, that she is acquainted with the precedents of the plague among wild rodents in New Mexico and the United States for several years. It has now reached an area from the west coast to a line running north and south at approximately the border of New Mexico. The FBI continued. From August 1949, there were 4
The
cases.
bloodline looks as menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again.
there's a kick and blood mass. Lights out.
That could put Solo down for good.
This is it. He could grab it right here.
And they score the win. What a tag match. It's hooked in deep.
Here are your winners.
The FBI subsequently received from the Public Health Service 2 charts displaying the outbreaks of plague in both New Mexico and the continental United States during that period. As the FBI noted with respect to the Public Health Service, they have found positive evidence of the plague among wild rodents in the states lying west of a line directly north of the east boundary of the state of New Mexico. The FBI's special agent in charge in Albuquerque concluded his report thus: Miss Greenfield has been requested to advise this office concerning any pertinent developments of the plague in New Mexico or in the United States that may come to her attention. In the event such developments are received, the Bureau will be immediately advised. In essence, those are the significant declassified portions of the file. Taking into consideration the fact that we now know that senior elements of and agencies within the government were taking a deep, albeit secret, interest and concern in cases of unusual disease and death in the U.S. animal population in the 1940s and 1950s, is it really out of the question to suggest that they might have done exactly the same thing since the 1960s, right up to the present day? That being so, what better way to hide such actions than behind a smokescreen of alien-themed cattle mutilations? After all, such a smokescreen, or maybe meme might be better and more accurate, would keep away the serious media, who would lump the phenomenon in with the likes of Roswell, Nessie, and Bigfoot, and largely ignore it or poke fun at it. UFO researchers would be kept busy chasing non-existing alien butchers, and the debunkers, some of whom are hardly strangers when it comes to acting as fawning, pathetic apologists for the government, would be content to suggest that it's all the work of coyotes, mountain lions, birds, insects, etc., etc. Cattle mutes are real, believe it, but the culprits are not who many think they are, or so desperately want them to be. The strangest cover-up of the Second World War. From Jonathan Downes, the director of the UK-based Centre for Fortean Zoology, comes what is surely one of the strangest tales of the Second World War. Since the story is a lengthy and complex one that is full of an absolute multitude of twists and turns, not to mention deep conspiracy and Second World War-era secrecy and subterfuge, the most profitable approach is to allow Downes to relate the extraordinary findings for himself, in his own fashion. They are findings that relate to a turbulent, terrible, and ultimately tragic story, told to Downes back in the early 1980s, when he was still in his early 20s and working as a psychiatric nurse at Starcross Hospital, Devon, England. Starcross being a small village on the west bank of the River Exe, Teignbridge. With that said, let us take a close and careful look at this emotion-filled tale of people long gone, shadowy secrets, deep stigma, and a war-torn era immersed in carnage and conflict. According to the British government's National Archive at Kew, England, originally known as the Western Counties Idiot Asylum, authors note, idiot was a word that, unlike today, was considered acceptable for the name of an asylum. This institution opened in 1864 in a house and 2 acres of land at Starcross, rented from W.R. Courtney, 11th Earl of Devon. A committee appointed to collect donations and subscriptions and to accept patients into the asylum was chaired by the 11th Earl, who was also its first president, positions he held until 1904. Kew's history of the hospital continues, as the government notes. By 1870, the building housed 40 residents, and an appeal for funds to build larger premises was launched. A new building, surrounded by 7 acres of grounds, was opened in June 1877. This was able to house 60 boys and 40 girls. Further addition in 1909, and by 1913, a total of 1,451 patients had been admitted to the institution. In 1914, the asylum was incorporated under the Companies Act. It then became known as the Western Counties Institution Starcross, and was certified as a residential special school for mental defectives. Residents were trained in carving, weaving, basketry, lace-making, and carpentry, and worked on the institution's agricultural holdings. In the 1930s, properties at Dix's Field, Exeter, and Steepway, Paynton, were purchased for use as domestic training hostels for young women. A farm hostel was founded on Langton Farm at Dawlish, and a seaside holiday home was opened. In 1948, the institution was transferred to the National Health Service and became merged into the Royal Western Counties Institutional Hospital Group, which coordinated all the residential mental deficiency services. The institution came under the control of Devon Area Health Authority from 1974 and of Exeter Health Authority from 1982. In 1986, in keeping with a national policy of transferring the majority of mentally handicapped people back into the community, the Royal Western Counties Hospital was marked for closure. With that background on Starcross Hospital Idiot Asylum revealed, let us now focus on Jonathan Downes, who begins the remarkable tale as follows. A story which I am sure was told to me in good faith, and which even now I do not know whether to believe, apparently took place during the Second World War. There had apparently been a number of occasions when captured German aircrew and pilots who had been shot down over South Devon or the English Channel were kept temporarily in a remote wing of Starcross Hospital, which is roughly 10 miles from the city of Exeter, until they could be transferred to the prisoner of war camp high above Starcross on the Halden Hills. On one particular occasion, says Downes, the military had been searching for a fugitive German airman in the woods surrounding Powderham Castle, which is about half a mile away from the old hospital, and which was constructed between 1390 and 1420 by Sir Philip Courtney. They had ventured into the deepest parts of the woods in search of their quarry, when suddenly the small band of elderly men and boys who were too young to join the regular army, but who were assigned to what was known as the Home Guard, saw what they believed was the fugitive airman running through the woods in front of them. The leader shouted at him to stop, but it was all to no avail, as Downes reveals. The old man who told me the story was actually one of the Home Guards, and he told me that one of the party had been a teacher in Germany before the war and could speak the language. He ordered the man to stop, but the fugitive ignored him. In 1942, the war was not going well, at least as far as the British were concerned, and Home Guard units, especially in rural areas, were desperately under-equipped. Most of the patrol was only armed with pitchforks, although one had a dilapidated shotgun, and the captain who led the unit had his old First World War service revolver. If it had been a normal patrol, there would only have been about half a dozen of them, but large parts of Exeter had been leveled by successive waves of German bombers, and the opportunity for a population of a tiny village like Starcross to actually face the enemy on equal terms was an irresistible lure. According to my informant, the Home Guard patrol had been augmented by a gang of villagers baying for blood and desperate for revenge. The captain was an educated man and had no intention of using force to capture the fugitive unless it was absolutely necessary. The man with a shotgun, a local farmer who had lost two of his sons in the desperate weeks leading up to Dunkirk, had no such compunction. He was also drunk. Shouting, "I'll get you, you bastard," he raised his weapon and fired. The dark figure ahead of them let out a grunt of agony and fell to the ground. The captain was furious. He immediately put the drunken farmer under arrest and confiscated his shotgun. It was at this point, Downes demonstrates, that the group came to a shocking realization. The man who had just been felled by the irate farmer was far stranger than anything that could have come out of Nazi Germany. The party then ran on towards what they thought was an injured German airman, but they found to their horror that it was nothing of the sort. Instead of a proud member of the Luftwaffe, they found a naked man in his early 20s, covered in hair and plastered in mud. Even 40 years after the event, says Downes, it was obvious that this informant had been badly shaken by this highly unnerving experience. He was now an elderly retired nursing officer in his early 70s who, spared military service because of his profession, had eagerly embraced the Home Guard as his opportunity to fight the Germans, and it was equally obvious that these years had been the happiest of his life. The rest of his professional career had been spent at the hospital, and he intimated to Downes that he had found the increasing struggle with a moribund bureaucracy exponentially tedious. So when he was offered early retirement, he was quite happy to spend the rest of his days fishing and propping up the corner of the bar in the pub. You may very well ask what happened to the hairy man who was supposedly felled all those years ago. Of his source and his strange and sensational story, Downs states, "Apparently," he told me, "the badly injured wild man was taken to Starcross Hospital in the middle of the night, and all efforts were made to make him comfortable. Then, in the early hours of the morning, apparently an unmarked black van had arrived, and two men in uniform and another wearing a long white coat manhandled the mysterious victim onto a stretcher, loaded him into the back of the van, and took him to an unknown destination. My informant never heard anything about the case again. He did hint, however, that the authorities warned everybody involved to say nothing. And in the prevailing culture of careless talk costing lives, they had all concurred. I was, apparently, the first person that he had ever talked to about the incident, and that was only because he had recently found out that 60 years of smoking had taken their toll, and that he was doomed to die of lung cancer within the next 18 months. As Downs's following words make abundantly clear, the revelations of his deep throat-like source had a profound and lasting effect upon the young and eager monster hunter. I sat back on the bar stool in the pub we were frequenting at the time and gulped at my pint. This was possibly the most bizarre thing that I had ever heard.
The bloodline looks as menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again.
There's a kick and Blackman's lights out. Turn the lights out. He's got the shoulders down. This is it.
Got it. What a tag match we just saw.
Sat in the corner of the bar.
Here are your winners.
Cigarette.
The team of Alistair Black, Bray Wyatt, and
His face had the unmistakable translation.
huge win here in six-man tag team action.
The bloodline is incensed. They really thought they had this one in the bag.
Well, no disrespect to the bloodline, but we all know what they say about assuming.
Did he remember the exact location? If so, would he be prepared to take me there? I asked these questions diffidently, and to my delight, he agreed. There was no time at the present, he told me. And so, finishing our beers, we went outside and walked towards the castle grounds. Matters were about to be taken to a whole new level. Once again, I turned the story over to Downs. It is, after all, his tale to tell. If you're traveling towards Exeter from Dawlish, go through Starcross Village, and when you pass the atmospheric railway pub...
Ice in their veins, that's perhaps the only way to describe this version of the bloodline. Cole.
There's a kick and Blackman's dominating maneuver could end things. Way up the ankles. Going to the cover. Shoulders are down.
And it's over. Big tag team win there.
Just bordered by a wide ditch full of...
Here are your winners. The team of Alistair Black, Bray Wyatt, and Hogan. These three have to be happy with their performance here tonight.
The bloodline is incensed. They really thought they had this one in the bag.
Well, no disrespect to the bloodline, but we all know what they say about assuming.
The main entry point to the woods where Lord Courtney and his family raced their pheasants. We wriggled through the gap in the fence to find ourselves blissfully trespassing in the forbidden grounds of the castle. Realizing that even on such a brightly moonlit night it would be pretty much impossible to venture any further into the thick and uninviting woodland, Downs and his aged informant decided to turn around and carefully retrace their steps back to Starcross Village. Downs says that as he was working for the next 3 days, he made arrangements to meet his companion.
The bloodline looks as menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again.
There's a kick and Blackman's lights out. Does that close it out for Black? The cover. It's an in.
Got it. What a match and what a great team. It's hooked in deep.
Here are your winners.
The team of
Drinking his customary bitter. However, something had changed. I tried to broach the subject of the mysterious wild man, but he was unwilling to talk about it. I should not have said anything the other night, he muttered. But I'm an old man, and I wanted to share it with you. Downs had more than a few thoughts and opinions on the matter of this distinct about-face. Whether it was the intimation of his imminent demise,
ice in their veins, that's perhaps the only way to describe this version of the bloodline. Cold blood.
There's a kick and bloodbath. Lights out.
Feeling like it's over for Sokoa.
Yeah, going for the cover. Solo shoulders her down.
Comes out on top in this tag team match. It's hooked in deep.
Here are your winners. The team up.
Downs just could not let the beastly matter drop. In actuality, for a while, it's fair to say that the whole thing became something of a definitive obsession for Britain's most famous preacher seeker. The whole affair fascinated me. Over the next months, I cautiously broached the subject of ape men in Powderham Woods with a number of the elderly men who drank in the pub, or who hung out in the hospital social club. None of them knew anything. Or if they did...
The bloodline looks as menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again inside the ring.
The latest incarnation of the... there's a kick and bloodbath. Lights out.
Now's the time to capitalize.
Going for the cover. Solo shoulders her down. The referee clearly out of position.
It's hooked in deep.
Here are your winners. The team up.
Relish. However, in view of his condition, and because I truthfully didn't think that I could get anything else out of him, I refrained from asking him any more about an incident which he obviously regretted having shared with me. I attended his funeral. I was one of the few people there. When his lonely black coffin trundled behind the curtain at the Exeter crematorium, I was convinced that the truth about this mystery would go up in smoke along with his elderly, cancer-riddled corpse.
The bell rings. The bloodline will surely be looking to run roughshod in this match. That pack.
There's a kick and bloodbath. Lights out. Black might have brought this to a point. He covers. Thinks it's it. Could be.
In the early weeks, I heard that we
Got it. Big time tag team win.
Here are your winners. The team up. Alistair Black.
And although I was supposed to be looking into the distribution of different syndromes of mental and physical handicap from which the patients at Starcross Hospital suffered, much to my surprise, I found what I strongly suspected to be the solution to my 40-year-old mystery. It was here that the tragic truth spilled out. In among some of the older files, I found a number that referred to members of a very wealthy and noble
Ice in
local
their
family.
veins. That's perhaps the only way to describe this version of the bloodline. Cold blood.
There's a kick and bloodbath. Lights out. Now that's how you put the nail in the coffin. Right up the ankle.
Oh, no. He's got him down for the pin. And that's it. Scores the win for the team. It's hooked in deep.
I discovered the details.
Here are your winners. The team up. Alistair Black. Bray Wyatt.
It turned out that an old lady, known affectionately to all the staff as Winnie, and who at the time I knew her must have been in her early 90s, was a member of this noble family. She had committed the unpardonable sin of becoming pregnant at the age of 13, following her liaison with one of the stable boys. This happened way back before the First World War. And although history didn't relate what had happened to her boyfriend, she had been forcibly given an abortion.
The bell rings. The bloodline will surely be looking to run roughshod in this match. That pack.
There's a kick and bloodbath. Lights out. Black might have brought this to a close.
Into the title for the win. Scores the win. What a great team. It's hooked in deep.
These people were labeled as
Here are your winners.
learning difficulties, imbeciles, individuals with severe learning difficulties, and moral defectives. I looked at Winnie with new respect from then on, and whenever I had the chance, I would give her a packet of cigarettes or some chocolate. Now Downs comes to the heart of the tale and the origin of the hairy wild man of Starcross Hospital. The files also contained details of a number of her relatives. Several of them suffered from congenital generalized hypertrichosis, commonly known as Wolfman syndrome. In extreme
The bell
cases,
rings. The bloodline will surely be looking to run roughshod in this match. That pack.
There's a kick and blood mass. Lights out.
Signed, sealed, and delivered.
Yet one of the hammer.
It's all or nothing time.
Hospital records absolutely proving that they had been present.
Wow, got it. Big time tag team win.
What I did find out is that the bloodline
Here are your
definitely
winners.
has not.
The team up.
The family is still very important in the Devon area. They were notable benefactors to local charities, and at one time at least, members of the family had been on the governing board of Starcross Hospital itself. As the condition is an inherited one, it seemed quite probable to Downs that the strain of congenital generalized hypertrichosis had not died out in the early years of the 20th century. A more enlightened generation of the family had decided to treat these poor unfortunates.
Ice in their veins. That's perhaps the only way to describe this version of the bloodline. Cold.
There's a kick and blood mass. Lights out. Alistair just turned the lights out. Boom. Oh,
This could be it. He could win it all here.
Scores the win. What a great team.
Here are your winners. The team
Was a German airman. This would explain everything. It would explain why the whole affair had been shrouded in secrecy. In those days, the part of the landowner and the patrician establishment was far greater than it is today. There is still a stigma surrounding mental illness, mental handicap, and disability. This poor man, covered in hair, was still a member of the family who, after all, still paid the wages of most of the members of the
The bloodline looks as menacing as ever as they prepare to establish their dominance once again. And
there's a kick and blood mass. Lights out. Did Brian just put an end to this?
Going for the cover. Shoulder to that.
Got it. What a tag match we just saw. It's hooked in deep.
Here are your winners. The team up.
Sad, enigmatic, and conspiracy-filled saga of the Starcross Wildman. The decades-old secrets of a powerful family, official cover-ups, frightened figures, a shadowy informant who had hidden the truth for decades, and a young man, John Downs, who nearly 40 years ago found himself so graphically exposed to the whole story, or at least considerable parts of it, in all its hideous and weird glory. Actually, the story is not quite over. The noted and late British naturalist Trevor Beer had an equally provocative...
The bell rings. The bloodline will surely be looking to run roughshod in this match. That pack.
There's a kick and blood mass. Lights out. That has to be the end right there. Yeah, he's going for a pull.
Big time win in this tag team match. It's hooked in deep.
Here are your winners. The team up. Alistair Black, Bray Wyatt, and Hogan. The bloodline taking the loss in this one.
Also the same are two further matters of significance.
No way they're going to just
In the
accept
story told to Beer,
Oh, yeah.
A,
Absolutely not.
the hairy man thing was shot, and B, it was found to be a member of a well-known family in the area. Beer described the story of the witness in these particular words. Climbing a hedge, he stumbled upon an animal ravaging a flock of sheep, and taking careful aim, he shot it. The beast reared onto its hind legs to run off into the woods. The dog followed the animal into the trees, where there was much hideous snarling, unlike any creature he had ever heard before. Suddenly, the dog came dashing out of the woods and bolted past its master, who, firing a second shot into the trees, also ran for home in great fear. Beer added, the man went on to explain his later studies of matters concerning the occult, and his realization that the animal he had shot was a werewolf, and a member of a well-known local family. He further states that he knows the family involved, and that they called in help from the church over a decade ago, but that they had to withdraw because of the terrible phenomena beyond their comprehension.
The bell rings. The
Now
bloodline will surely be looking to run roughshod in this match.
Family
That
being aware of the nature of this
Lights
character.
out. Brought this to it. Shoulders down. Looking for the
Similarities between this case and the one described with John Downs
And that's it. Scores the win for the
that
team.
over time became somewhat distorted into two separate ones.
Here are your winners.
Or incredibly,
Team up.
the case Trevor Beer described involved yet another member of the affected and afflicted family to which Downs referred. Maybe one day we will know the full and unexpurgated truth of this intriguing and conspiratorial cover-up-laden affair. Or perhaps, like so many tales of deep cover-up, it will forever languish in mystery, intrigue, and a closely guarded, locked filing cabinet marked Top Secret. NASA's top cover-ups. Although the Pentagon, the CIA, and the U.S. Air Force have been at the forefront of highly classified UFO secrets for many years, it's a little-known fact that NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, has taken a deep interest in not just UFOs, but incidents involving crashed UFOs.
Ice in their veins. That's
In other
perhaps the
words,
only way to
it's
describe
the
this version of the
extraterrestrial
bloodline.
hardware and
There's a
technology
kick
that NASA is particularly fascinated
Will
with.
that be it? Will
As
that
NASA
be it?
knows,
Yank right off the apron.
since its inception in 1958, NASA has accomplished many great scientific and
Comes out on
technological
top
feats
in
in
this
air and
tag
space.
team match.
NASA technology also has been adapted for many non-aerospace uses in the private sector. NASA remains a leading force in scientific research and in stimulating public interest in aerospace exploration, as well as science and technology in general. Perhaps more importantly, our exploration of space has taught us to view Earth, ourselves, and the universe in a new way. While the tremendous technical and scientific accomplishments of NASA demonstrate vividly that humans can achieve previously inconceivable feats, we also are humbled by the realization that Earth is just a
The bell
tiny
rings. The
blue
bloodline
marble
will surely be
in
looking
the
to run
cosmos.
roughshod in this match. That
All
pack.
of which brings us to one of the most amazing UFO cases.
The lights are out for Sakura.
The genesis of this case can be traced to a U.S. Department of State telegram transmitted from the American Embassy
And it's
in
over. Big
Bolivia.
tag team win
The
there.
U.S.
It's
Secretary of
fucking
State,
deep.
Washington, D.C., on May 15, 1978, shared with NASA. Captioned Report of Fallen Space Object, it stated, 1. The Bolivian newspapers carried this morning an article concerning an unidentified object that apparently recently fell from the sky. The paper quotes a Latin correspondence story of the Argentine city of Salta. The object was discovered near the Bolivian city of Bermejo, which was described as egg-shaped, metal, and about 4 meters in diameter. 2. The Bolivian Air Force plans to investigate to determine what the object might be and from where it
Ice in their
came.
veins. That's
I
perhaps
have
the only way
expressed
to
our
describe
interest
this
and
version of the
willingness to
bloodline.
help.
Cole.
There's a
Advised.
kick and blood mass.
3.
Business here is almost
Requested the
over.
department check with
Now
appropriate
it's the
agencies so that they can shed some light on what this object might be.
Saving their
The
team
general
for
region
for
has
now.
had more than its share of reports of UFOs this past week. Requests to
There's a
reply
kick
to
and
NASA.
lights out. That's going to
NASA and the Department of State were not the only branches of the government that took an interest in the
Got it.
case.
What a
The
match
CIA,
and what a great
also
team.
from May 15, 1978, makes clear.
Here are your winners. The team up.
Many people in this part of the country claim they saw an object which resembled a soccer ball falling behind the mountains on the Argentine-Bolivian border, causing an explosion that shook the earth. This took place on May 6th. Around that time, some people in San Luis and Mendoza provinces reported seeing a flying saucer squadron flying in formation. The news from Salta confirms that the artificial satellite fell on Taire Mountain in Bolivia, where it has already been
Ice in their
located
veins.
by
That's perhaps
authorities.
the only way to describe this
Same
version of the
sources said that
bloodline.
the area
Cole.
where the artificial
There's a
satellite
kick
fell
and blood
was
mass.
declared an emergency zone by the Bolivian government.
That's going to do it.
This could be
An
it.
examination of declassified UFO files found in the NASA log
And they're
reveals
still
a
the
second
win.
report
What a
that
tag
references
match.
the crash
It's
of
fucking
Mars
deep.
1. dated May 16, 1978, titled Reports Conflict on Details of Fallen Object, the document reads, "We have received another phone call from our audience requesting confirmation of reports that an unidentified object fell on Bolivian territory near the Argentine border. We can only say that the Argentine and Uruguayan radio stations are reporting on this even more frequently, saying that Bolivian authorities have urgently requested assistance
The bell rings.
from
The
the U.S.
Bloodline will
National
surely be looking
Aeronautics
to
and
run
Space
roughshod in this
Administration
match. That
in order to determine
there's a
the nature
kick
of
and
that which crashed
Lights
on Bolivian
That's
territory.
going to keep Sokoa
Just a
down.
few minutes ago,
Down with the
Radio
cover.
El Espectador de Montevideo announced that there was insufficient
And it's over. Big tag team win there.
Argentine sources
It's hooked in
indicated that the
deep.
border with Bolivia had been closed,
Here are your winners.
but that it might soon be reopened. They also reported that an unidentified object had fallen on Bolivian soil near the Argentine border, and that local Bolivian authorities had requested aid from the central government, which in turn had sought assistance from the U.S. National Aeronautics and Space Administration to investigate the case. A La Paz newspaper said today that there is great interest in learning about the nature of the fallen object, adding that local authorities, for security reasons, had
Ice in their
cordoned off
veins. That's
200
perhaps the only way
kilometers
to
around
describe
the
this
spot where
version of the
object fell.
Bloodline. Cole.
The object is said to be a mechanical device with a diameter of almost 4 meters, which has already been brought to Tahiti. There is interest in determining the accuracy of these reports
And they
spread
score the win.
throughout the
What a
continent,
tag match.
particularly
It's
in
hooked in
Bolivia
deep.
and its neighboring countries. Is it a satellite, a meteorite, or false? On May 18, 1978, the U.S. Embassy in La Paz again forwarded a telegram to both NASA and the Secretary of State, Washington, D.C. Classified secret, the telegram disclosed the following. Preliminary information provided has been checked with appropriate government agencies. No direct correlation with known space objects that may have re-entered the Earth's atmosphere near May 6th.
The Bloodline looks as menacing as ever as they prepare
However,
to
we
establish their
continue to
dominance
examine
once
any
again.
possibilities.
There's a kick.
Your attention is invited to State Aerogram A624, July 26, 1973, which provided background information and guidance for dealing with space objects that have been
Got it.
found.
Big
In
time tag
particular,
team
any
win.
information pertaining to the pre-impact observations, direction of trajectory, number of objects observed, time of impact, and a detailed description including any markings would be useful. 6 days later, a communication was transmitted from the U.S. Defense Attaché Office in La Paz to a variety of U.S. military and government agencies and departments, including NORAD, the Air Force, and the Department of State. This office has tried to verify the stories put forth in the local
The Bloodline
press.
looks as menacing as
The Chief
ever
of
as they
Staff of
prepare
the
to
Bolivian
establish their
Air Force
dominance once
told
again.
that
There's a
to
kick.
state that planes from the PAF
The lights are
flew
on
over
for
the area
Sokoa.
where the object was supposed to have landed,
This could
and in
be
their
the
search they blew a blank. Additionally, that era taught the state
Got it.
and members of
What
the
a
Bolivian
tag
army
match we
informed
just saw.
that the Army's search party directed to go into the area to find the object. They found nothing. The Army has concluded that there may or may not be an object, but to date, nothing has been found. The CIA's report of May 15, 1978, clearly stated that the object had fallen to Earth on Taire Mountain, Bolivia, and had already been located by authorities. Furthermore, on the following day, the CIA learned that the object had been brought to Tarija. In contrast, the Bolivian Army and Air
Ice in their
Force
veins.
advised
That's
the
perhaps
U.S.
the only way
Defense
to describe
Attaché
this
Office
version of the
that their
Bloodline.
search for the mysterious
There's a
object
kick
had
and
drawn a blank.
Lights
Nothing was
out.
found.
That's going to keep Sokoa
The
down.
CIA was
He's thinking he can end it here.
or were the Bolivians keeping the Department of State in the dark? The answers to
Got
this
it too. He just kicked out by a
This one's
fraction of
not
a
yet
second.
there.
Bray may have sealed things up.
Tantalizing information suggests that the object was indeed recovered by U.S. authorities, or at least with the assistance of U.S. authorities, and that both the CIA and NASA played key roles in the case. In June 1979, researcher Leonard Stringfield was contacted by an Argentinian investigator, Nicholas Ojeda, who had interesting data to impart.
Got it. There's the winners of the tag match.
There is a report of a group of investigators who vanished mysteriously in the area. I really think something big was solved. NASA investigated, but there was no news of it. I have to tell you that in La Paz, Bolivia, a huge Hercules C-130 carried something from the area where the UFO crashed. In addition, Springfield's research led to a disclosure that a CIA source known to the researcher Bob Berry confirmed that the C-130 flight took place and that he was aboard the aircraft. No comment was the reply that Berry received.
The bell rings. The bloodline will surely be looking to run roughshod in this match.
The available evidence still did not lights out. Possibility that the object was a meteor certainly can be discounted, primarily because of the description given in the Department of State's telegram of May 15th. The object was egg-shaped, metal, and about 4 meters in diameter. What of the possibility that the object was a man-made satellite? That theory was thrown into doubt by the Department of State's secret telegram of May 18th, which was shared with NASA and clearly stated, no direct correlation with known space objects that may have entered the Earth's atmosphere near May 6th can be made. In this light, the CIA statement that people in San Luis and Mendoza provinces reported seeing a flying saucer
that's perhaps the only way to describe this version of the bloodline. Cold
revelations of the state that the general region has had more than its share of reports of UFOs in the past week must be considered significant. Certainly the most significant development of this case occurred in 2015 when data compiled by the late UFO researcher Bob was an acclaimed UFO researcher who died in November 2005 and gave me permission to use his material when I was digging into the NASA UFO controversy. The well-known Brazilian UFO investigator A.J. Javard wrote on November 23, 2005, "This is a very sad note. Bob Pratt, a great UFO researcher and good friend, died last Saturday, November 19th. His death